No. I mean, the Ohio thing is so simple. It's so simple. If people just have a little bit of an open mind and a little bit of thought, hey, I'm going to think about the resource before myself for once. Because all I think about is me. Me. What about me? What about me? What about me? I have 4 months to hunt. I want all these weapons. You can't take away anything away from me. And I'm saying, think about the resource. Think about the future. Think about the trajectory of what's happened in Ohio and a lot of these other states in the last 20 years. And we can pretty objectively say that a lot of these things are going in the wrong direction. So let's prioritize the resource, which has not been prioritized for the last 20 years. Everybody that wants to exploit it, ruin it, destroy it, kill it, make it easier has won the argument. Fight back. The pendulum needs to swing the other way. What is best for the resource, people? Not what's me. That's it.
All right, guys. Welcome to the Deer Shop Podcast, presented by Siman Brothers Outdoors and the Leaky John Boat Company.
He went and watched a movie that has a $200 million production budget, and then the next thing he watched was our video on YouTube that has a $0 production budget.
This is the first buck I've shot in over 10 years.
Your track job was the first fun track job. That kind of like, I think part of my life was influenced by that night.
Then you miss him 3 times with a rifle at 70 yards on video, the whole world to see.
Yeah, that's what Caleb did. 5 years ago, we couldn't shoot a deer at 100 yards with a slug gun. Now you're shooting turkeys at 100 yards with a shotgun.
Joey takes
The shop is closing up.
Make sure he takes all his right antlers. You can't leave anything.
All right, guys. Deer Shop Podcast, episode 125. Myself, Isaac, Uncle Jay in the studio. We have a special guest today, Sligh from Iowa Whitetails. He's going to be on to be kind of a guide for part 2 of our What to Do to Improve Ohio series. If you listened last week, we talked about Mike Rex's recent post on social media. It timed up perfectly with Hunter's latest podcast, which was also a discussion on how to make Ohio better. We had a lot of replies. The internet was kind of buzzing with it. Jay took a vested interest because he does a ton of travel hunting, just recently got back into the Ohio hunting. I'm sure you guys have listened to that podcast, but this will be our part 2. Now that we've brought Jay in, we're going to kind of talk about non-residents a lot today. The Iowa model is going to be important here. We know there's plenty of deer in the state of Ohio. We know there's some areas that are hurting, whether due to disease, whether due to populations, but most of the hunting is good. This is going to be a conversation about what we can do to make it better, how we can get more larger, better age class whitetails, having a better experience for the residents and the non-residents that do end up coming here. It's going to be just a general soup bowl of how to make the hunting better here. I've heard some of the complaints. Our intro at times is long, and last week's was actually 36 minutes of talking about shit that didn't matter at all in the grand scheme of things.
But it was just me and you bullshitting.
Yeah, and I enjoy that. I enjoy the audience interaction. I enjoy talking about the comments and some of the stuff that the people have talked about that upcoming week. But because this topic is big and we want people to really get into the meat and potatoes of it, I am not going to do that this week. We're going to cut this business part really short. I do have a couple quick notes. For one, we have Dylan, Nick. Ethan is not hunting. I thought he was tonight. He's at work. And then Anthony and Ryan are out tonight. Ohio's muzzleloader season is open. They're all going after bucks. They're all going after good bucks. So there might be some stuff that happens tonight in the deer woods while we are here podcasting, which would be really cool. The only deer shot I'm going to give out, because there's a bunch that I need to do, but the only one that really matters, I'm going to give a shout out to Born Again Matt, because he was able to kill in Ohio 2 days ago. He ended up going 3 for 3. Check out their podcast if you want to hear more about that in the upcoming days. But Matt killed a great one, and it was very awesome. And he hunted hard all season, and a bunch of new challenges there. He'll tell you all about it. Business wise, I think that's just about it. If the Ashland Fire Boys are listening, we're not going to talk about you at all in this podcast, so you don't have to listen anymore if you don't want to. We're not going to bring it up. But I am going to bring in our guest here in just a moment, Skip Sligh. I will let him introduce himself. He's got a long introduction, I'm sure, that is very relevant to our podcast, and then we're going to dive straight into this Iowa-Ohio model, non-residents, and I'm sure we'll end up talking about crossbows, baiting, drones, Amish, all the things will end up being talked about at some point. But let's bring Skip in. Skip, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
We're good. I just worked 80 hours straight.
I'm missing hunting tonight.
Are you supposed to be out?
I got my son just walked out the door literally 10 seconds ago. I've got a buddy that's sitting on the southwest part of my farm. I've got another friend that's up on a little tillable farm I have north of here, about 10 miles. And then there's a dad and a son hunting a farm I have to the west. So I think we've got, yeah, maybe four-ish guys out tonight.
Awesome.
And we got one last night, a nice old buck. And yeah, I mean, it's a slower season, but yeah, a lot of hunting going on. But this whole season, I basically relegated it to hunting with kids, hunting with buddies. I've taken kids out from 8 years old to 80. I think the last one, 83 years old.
Wow.
It was probably harder taking the 83-year-old
Yeah, I believe that.
and everything in between. So I just took this season to spend time with kids, kind of teach them things, little lessons out there and so on. So I've had a really fun season, and then I've been trapping. I caught a huge bobcat today, and
Oh, cool.
getting coyotes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Bobcat season's a hot topic right now in Ohio. They're kind of kicking that around for opening up some trapping and stuff with bobcats because they've been protected here.
It'll
forever.
happen. Yeah, it'll happen. You guys will get it fixed, and you should get it fixed. I mean, we went from 0 bobcats to 1. Now we're at 3 per person because they're everywhere.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
so you just need one of your. Ohio probably has a predator biologist that'll probably have input, and people are going to be able to show some data on how many bobcats are in the area. And eventually, I can't imagine you don't get it. So.
Yeah, we're 2 counties south of the lake where we're sitting right here, so we're pretty far north in Ohio. We do occasionally get a bobcat on camera, but down by the river, we have some properties down like Washington County. I mean, it's a weekly. There's bobcats on camera weekly down there. They're very common in the southern part of the state. So cool.
Yeah. So Skip, give us your background on like how what brought you from Michigan to Iowa, and then what got you started in this whole this crazy world of whitetails, and how you got so deep in it the way you are.
So I would say literally, I'll try and make a long story short, but I would say this literally started at like 6 years old, where I was the nature boy. I just loved being outside, and I was always really into the environment. And I had mentioned on another podcast, like I was a kid in like 7th grade. There was a group of students who had a lot of knowledge, but passion, where we went to the Amazon rainforest to study deforestation with a couple teachers and biologists and stuff like that. I was just always very environmental, and I always loved being outside. Well, throughout that whole process, I would see the environment ruined by people, or fisheries, or hunting, or just before I even got into this stuff, I'd see stuff just get developed into houses, like pristine forests and stuff, and it always bothered me. So I always loved being outdoors, and I was a city boy, and I'd take my bike to like catch frogs, turtles, snakes, all that kind of stuff. No hunting, and nobody in my family hunted. Like everybody's like, when I did want to hunt later, they're like, "You want to hunt?" No, it was kind of weird that they thought it was weird that I'd even want to hunt. But I was more like nature lover, actually animal lover too, and I still am to this day. And so in Michigan, I just saw so many scenarios over and over and over and over, even as a little kid, where things got kind of good and then the people destroyed it immediately. Like you'd tell somebody about your fishing spot and it'd be good for 1 year and it'd get destroyed. A year later, you're like, it's totally wrecked. People would find out about where you rabbit hunted and got this limit of rabbits, and all of a sudden that's ruined. Somebody shoots a big buck and it's just destroyed. So I just watched all these things get destroyed, and I watched as a young kid. So I finally did get into hunting at maybe 13 or 14 years old, and I didn't have anywhere to go. So I always wanted to buy land because we were poor, and I'd hunt public, and I'd hunt this public land, and it was just destroyed, just degraded. I'd go a week without seeing a deer. I'd see hunters bicker with each other and not get along, and I didn't like that. I thought it was silly. And then, I'd shoot a year and a half old buck because I hunted in the worst part of the country. If you guys think you have it bad, if you think you have it tough, I'll challenge anybody. Like, I'd see like 4 year and a half old bucks in a whole year. 4, maybe 3, maybe 5. And when you had one of them that came into range, you shot it. And when that happened at a very young age, like 14 was my first year I hunted, I got one. And I mean, I was over the moon, thrilled to death. And 2, 3 years into it, maybe the second year I'm still shooting a year and a half old buck, and I'd meet these older guys where they were almost like kind of jealous when I'd get one, and they were kind of scowly towards me. And then I'd see a lot of different older guys shoot these year and a half old bucks, and I'd be like, "Oh, that's amazing!" I'd be like really happy for them. I'd be like, "Aren't you extremely like stoked and excited like I was?" But I didn't know any better, and they're like, "No, just had to get my buck." And I'm like, "You're not excited?" And they're like, "No, I just had to get my buck." And they cut the horns off and the skull plate, and they nail it up and let it rot next to the rest of them, and they weren't even thrilled about it. And I was like, "That's kind of weird." So then as I shoot some year and a half old bucks, eventually I'm like, oh, I'd like to try them for a 2 year old. I didn't even know where I could go for a 2 year old, but I finally found some permission in southern Michigan where there was 2 year olds and stuff. And then I just started traveling across all of Michigan. So I don't know if this is right or wrong, whatever, but I'd go pretend that's right.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so I'd go to the Indiana border, Ohio border,
Yep.
all the way up, and then into the UP, and we had a place in the UP. So I understand what it's like in the UP where you're like, there's no deer, there's nothing. You don't hear birds, there's nothing. I know what that's like. I know what's like Traverse City, Cadillac, Newego, all over here. And then I hunted West Michigan where I grew up, and even in the 90s, I saw the access going bye bye. And we shoot finally when I got older, like 18, we started shooting some big deer, bigger than what a lot of the old timers were shooting. And every time we'd shoot a big deer, I'd get kicked off the farm. Well, we decided to lease it now. And it's like, you've hunted here for 20 years. You didn't shoot a big deer. Now we show you that you can shoot a big deer, and now we get kicked off. And nothing I could do about it. I didn't have any money. So I couldn't afford leases. I couldn't afford, throwing bait out. I think it was legal to throw bait out. I couldn't afford that. I could barely afford some gas money and the essentials to hunt. That's it. And where I'll just wrap this up. It's like, so when I explain my experience in Michigan, I've seen every bit of Michigan, the good, the bad, and there's not much that's good.
Wow.
But not the worst. I've hunted stuff that was better than the worst. And then I hunted every other state, every other state in the Midwest. I just finally said, Michigan sucks. It's ruined, which is what almost all the serious hunters do now. They're all just like, I'm out of here. They all leave during the rut. And I hunted every other Midwestern state. And then when it comes to Ohio, I've been all over that state from the top to the bottom. And the amount of guys, residents and non-residents, that I know that are very serious hunters, even some casual ones, or the guys that are like, I have probably dozens of buddies that I know that own 200 to 5,000 acres in Ohio. And some of them are like non-residents. Like, hey, man, I own 5,000 acres in Ohio. And I go out there and I hunt it for 1 week a year. And that's about it. It's like, I know these people. I'm not going to say their names. But I know tons and tons and tons of people who own just piles of farms. And what people from Ohio need to grasp, and I think they do if they use a little bit of intellect here, is Ohio might have problems. It does. There's no doubt it does. But compared to like a Michigan, or compared to like way out east, or even some areas in like Wisconsin or Pennsylvania and stuff like that, like they're like, Ohio's got a lot of problems, but it's still way better than what I have. So they'll go there and they'll be like, dude, where I come from, if I see a 2-year-old with some kickers, or a 3-year-old that's like the best genetic 3-year-old, they're like, that's a giant where I came from, and they shoot it because Ohio is so much better than what their broken system is like. Their systems are completely destroyed. Michigan would be the worst.
Is
so
Michigan
guys,
the worst? in the country? Is that
Michigan's the worst.
okay?
Michigan's the worst. Pennsylvania destroys Michigan because people would argue Pennsylvania was up there. And you can get into like some southern states in the country where you're like, I can shoot $8 in a day, stuff like that, where you're like, dude, it's blown to bits. But as far as the Midwest goes,
Yeah.
Michigan by far is the worst regulations, the worst run state. If I tried to make it any worse, I don't know what I'd do to Michigan. If my job was to make it any worse, destroy that system, I don't know what I could do. Their regulations are completely backwards, completely upside down. And there is no perfect system, Iowa included. But you can go across the whole Midwest. I've hunted every parts of these states. I've owned in multiple different states. I own farms all across Iowa now. I own stuff in Kansas. I've owned stuff in Missouri. I've owned stuff all over the place. And then I've traveled and hunted everywhere. So I've just, it's not like a smart or dumb type issue. It's just I've just experienced so many different sides of it, and I understand what great looks like, and I also understand what some of the residents of these states, they don't know what they don't know. Like they haven't, if you hunt in this neighborhood, wherever, I don't care where it is, Ohio, Iowa, you think that everywhere else is like that if you never leave. You're like, well, that's how hunting is everywhere. I hear some stories, but even in Ohio, you're like, hey, we have a lot of high doe numbers right here in Ohio. So the whole state's like that. That's what they think. No, there's areas with very few does. There's areas where the does are completely out of control. There's neighborhoods where dudes lock up huge swaths of land and shoot nothing. And then there's land where it's kind of a free for all and little chunks, and there's a million hunters. So I understand there's a massive diversity, and I understand very much like Iowa. We have Des Moines, we have Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, Sioux City. We have these big cities, and the hunting dynamics around those towns are different. And if you get 2 hours out of town, things are totally different 2 hours away. So I understand all these dynamic shifts. And the last thing I would just say with Iowa is a lot of people incorrectly say that Iowa has a low hunter density. We have the least amount of habitat and the least amount of deer of any Midwestern state. Kansas barely has less forest, but they have just thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of prairie, same with Nebraska. And even the pasture lands that are just vast pasture lands where there's deer. We don't have that here. We just have timber and ag. That's it. And 2/3 of our state is nothing. It's just vacant. So we have about 7% timber. It used to be 8. And then when commodities go up, we just start dozing in our timber. But if this is the state of Iowa, kind of a rectangle, the whole the whole northern part, 2/3, there's no deer. There's like nothing. I mean, there's a few river systems and a few deer here and there, but like really there's nothing. So we have 7% timber in the state. We have the lowest deer population in the Midwest, and we have the second highest hunter density per habitat acre. So, you say, well, 2/3 of the state, there's nothing. It's just wide open cornfields. And when it's combined, there's no deer around. Nobody hunts that stuff. When you look at our timbered acres where deer live, or a mix, diverse mix where there's deer at, we're the second highest hunter density per habitat acre right behind Wisconsin. So, I can talk about situations that are very close to the city where guys are hunting like 5-acre parcels, 2-acre parcels, 10-acre parcels, and they're actually really good here. Can't use bait either. They're actually really good. There's mature deer here, even by the cities. And then I can talk about as you get into a little bit bigger parcels. But Ohio actually has bigger parcel sizes when you get into like southern parts of Ohio, and most of Iowa is all chopped up. 80s, 40s, 160s. The hunting pressure is obscene. We deal with access issues. We have our problems too. So Iowa is not a perfect system, but it is probably the best run system in the Midwest, neck and neck with Kansas. And our regulations are the only thing that keeps us great. It's the only thing. And if you changed our regulations where you mirrored Missouri right across the line from us, we'd be destroyed. And here's the fun part about Iowa. The fun part about Iowa is with the least amount of habitat, the least amount of deer, and the most hunting pressure per habitat acre, we touch 6 states. So we touch South Dakota, we touch Nebraska, we touch Missouri, we touch Wisconsin, we touch Minnesota, and we touch Illinois. That's 6 bordering states. And you can go across the line in every which direction. And right when you cross that magic line, the hunting goes downhill. I've been on the farms, I've hunted the areas. I go across these magic lines 15 miles behind me to go into Missouri. I'm there all the time. You go across these magic lines, and the hunting goes, it sucks. It gets degraded, ruined, destroyed. At least compared to Iowa, it goes downhill. In every one of those 6 cases, it is degraded. When they have more habitat, more deer, and all those things, and actually less hunter density, other than Wisconsin.
Yeah,
But
Skip,
it's not even close. Same day difference.
I completely agree with you. Like, you have to get out of your comfort zone, so to speak, to see what else is out there. So I'm much like you, hunting Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, and then I go west for elk and mule deer and whatnot. But when it comes to whitetail, I started seeing this I started travel hunting in the early 2000s. And my first trip to Iowa I didn't feel like it was a normal experience. Like it just wasn't, because I grew up hunting.
It could be. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
when I hunted here, I was like, "What the heck?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!"
It's just not a normal experience, and people who have never left the state don't understand the possibilities of what a really good experience can be. And
I have brought hundreds, to this point, maybe 1,000, but in the hundreds of people to my farm to hunt from every Midwestern state: Ohio, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin. I had a handful of them this year that drew tags. Every single one that comes, it's almost, you can almost know what they're going to say. Like before they go out hunting, they all say the same thing. They go, "Dude, I saw more big deer in one night of my first night here than I have the whole season back in fill in the blank,"
right.
wherever they're from.
Yeah.
I hear it every time.
I've gone as far as to tell anybody who's asked me, is Iowa really what, people say it is? And let me put it to you this way. I would never, if I lost the private farms I have access to now, I would not even blink an eye at continuing to get points and hunt public ground. I would put Iowa's public ground, because that's where I started hunting before I started building, friendships. I would put Iowa's public ground as good, if not better, than most Ohio private.
Agreed.
And it comes down to hunter management and deer management. It's that simple.
So
our regulations are what keep us afloat, period. You can say, well, the hunters are more disciplined in Iowa, and there's a culture of passing deer, which is true. Every big deer you see, like this bomber that got to be 7 years old and he's a giant, like that one that I got last year that was 7, that was 233. All these
did
deer.
you say 233?
That was 233. Yeah. So all these deer, though, they've been passed multiple times for years. It's not like that was the first time he walked in front of a hunter. Any of these, all of them. And that's with every deer I know of. Like, people just pass deer. They're like, and, the one problem Iowa has, and it's not as big a problem as what people think, is we can technically shoot 3 bucks, as a landowner. But really, less than 5% of the people even shoot 2 bucks. And we break our seasons up. So if you have your archery tag and you shoot your buck, you're done till gun season. You can't go shoot a second buck. You can't. And then you have to pick one of our gun seasons. We have early muzzleloader, first gun, second gun, late muzzleloader. You have to pick one of those. So if you're like, oh, I picked first gun and it's 5 days long and it comes and goes and the weather stinks or nothing happens, you're done. That's your year. So most people, it's a problem. I'd like to see it where it was just 1 buck or 2 bucks. I'd love to see it. I'm not fighting for it. I'm not advocating for it. It would help us, because we have problems just like anybody where things get top graded. We have so many hunters, but for all intents and purposes, it's not that big a deal. But it's our regulations that save us. Period. And I'm just going to repeat myself, just saying every time you cross the borders, nothing changes as far as the habitat. The animals are the same. When I go across Missouri, it's the same animal. Same animal. It's better habitat over there and less people in the very northern tier of Missouri. It gets very rural. It looks better than right here, and the hunting tanks. And the only difference is the regulations. The
Yep.
people are no different. The people are no different. It's all regulations. I mean, all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, they got rifles in the middle of the rut, 2 bucks, unlimited over the counter tags, and it's a train wreck over there. A train wreck. And some people might say Northern Missouri is actually pretty good. Well, compared to maybe Michigan or
Right.
parts of Wisconsin or Minnesota, sure. But compared to Iowa, no.
Right.
All right.
It's not even close. And
All right, I have a question. So
Yeah.
we've been discussing facts and opinions about Iowa versus Ohio. Can we, because mainly for my own curiosity, what are those differences in regulations that cause? I know we've been saying the regulations cause it. They cause it.
This is easy.
So what are
This is
these?
easy.
What is causing it to be that much better? Because I'm sure the audience is curious too. I'm curious.
Easy. Okay. So people want to over-complexify these issues. They want to say, well, in Ohio we have these bigger cities, or in Ohio we have fill in the blank. It's deer, woods, tillable, great mixes of it, some where there's not as much, some bigger timber. We have the same thing in Iowa. You could say, well, there's a little more of this in Ohio, a little more of that. They're not much different. And I've been all across the state of Ohio. It kind of looks pretty similar to Iowa. You guys have way more deer and way more habitat than we do, substantially more deer, way more habitat. But it's not. It's white-tailed deer. Okay, it's not so complex. I don't know. We can't do these things. It's so complex over here that no. You can absolutely apply the things that make Iowa successful to a lot of it, to what could be done in Ohio, which is really common sense. Now, what we do, why we stay so stinking good, is a few things. Three things. One, we never allowed crossbows to be put into archery season. And we do allow, because we're not anti-crossbows. Nobody even I know is like, I hate crossbows. And nobody I know is even like, I hate guns. I don't hear it at all. The only thing we do hate is the crossbow lobbyists trying to buy our state off, when the hunters overwhelmingly don't want crossbows, and there's data to support that. Like, not even close. The hunters do not want it shoved in an archery season. But if you want to use crossbows, if you're disabled, if you're handicapped, if you have an injury, or you're a senior citizen, you can use it in archery season. No one has a problem with that. Nobody. If you're an able-bodied male, you shoot a bow. And that keeps us great. And somebody's like, well, I'm the able-bodied dude that wants to shoot a crossbow. Okay, we made it so the 3 weeks, the muzzleloader seasons, you can use a crossbow during muzzleloader season. So if you want to use a crossbow, we accommodate. And so now you can only use bows, crossbows, smokeless muzzleloaders, which is what a lot of guys use now, ARs, shotguns, pistols. I mean, we have unlimited, tons of opportunities. And I won't probably get so far into the crossbow debate, but crossbows really do. The stupidest argument I've ever heard is, well, compound's more advanced than a recurve, so then we should have crossbows in archery season. Like, that's the dumbest argument, where you're not using any of your brain to tactfully think about these things. It's a horrible argument. There is more merit to say crossbows belong in gun season. I could make that argument far better than I could they belong in archery. And listen, in Iowa, we have one hard season left. One hard season where you have to pull the weapon with your own strength, hold it on your own strength, release it on your own, and you can't hold it. I don't even care if there's a good bit of let off. There's only so long, and you shake, and you gotta you gotta pull that bow back. If I had a crossbow, it'd be freaking oh my gosh, it ruined this state. It would ruin us. But again, we put them in their own seasons, just like people want to muzzleloader hunt. And I know it got too far with muzzleloaders. Everything's got advanced muzzleloaders. Shotguns went to straight wall rifles. Everything's got advanced. Okay, so that doesn't mean because other things got advanced, we need to shove it into archery season. It'd be just like me saying, well, I like to muzzleloader hunt. I think my muzzleloader should be allowed in archery season. No, it shouldn't. You put it in its own season, which is common sense, and that's what we did. So we have our muzzleloader season. But if the muzzleloader company said, no, we want it during archery season, we'd say, are you out of your minds? No. And it's at some point, and then people will say like, well, it's just about deer numbers, and if the quota is the quota, okay, then let's just legalize everything. Just make it rifles year round. Make it so you can trap deer. Make it so you can shoot deer with your drone with an AR mounted on it. And I mean, there's no limit to this if you want to say, well, it's just about deer quotas. It's just about killing. Well, and if it's legal, it's good. Who cares if it's legalized? We can legalize a lot of stuff, and we have, that has had really negative consequences. So I know I got on a long tangent.
That's all right.
So number one, we do not allow crossbows in regular archery season unless you're disabled, a senior, or you're injured. Brilliant. And if you want to use them, we made their own season. That's just common sense. Everybody wins, and we keep the difficult archery season. We don't ruin it. The last hard season, we didn't ruin it. That's number one. Number two, our gun season is genius. Our gun season, you have to pick one of the four, and I probably wouldn't do this for Ohio, but your late gun season is genius. Your late gun season in $1, the only thing that saves Ohio. I mean, it is, and I'm not going to knock Ohio like on the things they do great. That's a brilliant decision. $1 in late gun season. So that's the other thing that saves Iowa is our late gun season, and you have to choose which gun season you want to hunt. And the other thing that does help is it helps alleviate the pressure and the access because we have such little habitat. We don't have all these guys, the Orange Army, and then the guns get blazing, and all of a sudden the deer just are either dead or hiding. It's not like that here. It's good through to the last day. It's freaking amazing. We're in Michigan. It's like November 15 opened. November 18, everything's dead and hiding, and like, what do we do now? Let's go rabbit hunting. Let's, whatever. I mean, that was it. Here, it's good till the absolute last day. The last thing we do in Iowa, the two last things we do in Iowa, two. Remind me if
That's
I don't
four
catch
now.
that.
We're up to four.
All right, we're at four. We do not allow bait in our hunting season. We allow supplemental feeding, which is for the nutrition of the animals. I'm not saying there isn't a few downsides people can nitpick with supplemental feed, like, the deer congregate a little bit, but when it's outside of season, it's not corn either. We're putting minerals and high protein feeds, and it's just supplemental though. And the amount of food plots done here and timber stand improvement work that aren't done in bait states, and I have data behind that. We do all these extra things for the health of the animal. It's not for killing. So if I throw out a corn pile, it's just to kill that animal. And when season's done, I'm like, I don't care. Bye. No more corn. You guys can starve, fend for yourself. I know you ruined the habitat, and you're screwed. Where that's actually when we start, and we do very healthy, biologically sound things to supplement their diet and help the health of the animal, which also helps with EHD and other stuff like that too, which are unnatural viruses. The fourth thing we do, so no bait. The fourth thing we do is we limit the non-residents to 6,000 a year. 6,000. Okay.
Skip, how did the state come up with that number?
We had so few deer back when because we wiped all of our deer out. Okay. And I actually, for fun, I actually read this. I read it every couple of years. This goes back into, I think, the 80s on the history of Iowa deer. But we had no deer in the state. And finally, they started repopulating, and we had whitetail deer. And all of a sudden, you're like, hey, this season, hunters can shoot 100 deer. And then all of a sudden, it's like hunters can shoot 10,000 deer. Just over time, it kind of went, like this, and it just kept going up. Well, when we had even a reasonable amount of deer, we had a lot of people who wanted to hunt here, and we could not accommodate them because we have so little habitat and we had so few deer. We had less deer than today, like, in like the 70s and 80s. So they're like, and very early on, the DNR, some of the biologists, some of the wise people that made decisions on the regulations in Iowa realized that Iowa was becoming popular, and they were wise enough to realize that other states were ruined. So they said, guys, we have to watch this. And they knew this. They're just smart people that thought about this. And they said, we have to watch this because we have a very well-managed state. And anytime something's well-managed, it's going to be targeted by people who are not in those situations. And it's going to be exploited by those people. So long ago, they put a quote in. And I do think they raised it a little bit. But the pressure, it got great fast. Like, crazy amount of pressure in a hurry. So they just said 6,000. And here's what they said. And here's why they said it. They said, listen, if we have ample access, every resident has places to go, plenty of them, which used to be the case. And there's a lot of excessive deer. We can open it up to some non-residents because we have a surplus. And the deer are owned by the states. They're owned by the residents of the states and the voters of that state. They're not owned by the non-resident over there. They own the stuff in their state. And, the state's resources meant to be for the residents and for the voters of that state. That's who it's for. And when there's a surplus of it, then you say, okay, we have too many. We have plenty to go around. Let's open this amount up to non-residents. So they said, let's do 6,000. And since that point, our draw has just gotten longer and longer and longer. It used to be every year, then every other year, then every 3. Now we're trending towards every 7 years.
Well, and not
it
only
will not be
what people need to understand too, not only that is you don't get to hunt the entire state as a non-resident. You have to
right.
pick, you can only pick a
Yes.
unit.
Yes,
And
we break it up into zones.
Right, zones.
9
I'm
or
sorry,
10
yeah.
zones.
Yeah,
so that keeps these areas from not getting overrun with non-residents. And even our public lands get a lot of pressure from the non-residents too, because we have about the least amount of public land as well of any state. Maybe you'd say Hawaii is less, or Rhode Island, or some small state, but we have just a tiny bit of public land where you guys actually have a lot more than us. And our public lands are getting close to being hammered a lot harder from non-residents and from residents because they're losing access. Access is a common issue in every state. I don't care what state it is. I don't care if it's Kansas. I don't care if it's out west. I don't care if it's out east. It's a common theme with whitetails and every other animal for all intents and purposes, any big game animal for sure. So the access is getting worse, but we're not at a point where access is critical. We have less than 5% of the ground is being leased in Iowa, less than 5%. Most of our hunting is done by permission. Non-resident ownership it's actually declined because we removed the hunters didn't do this, but yeah, the non-resident loophole for sharing tags. That law just got codified in the first way it was written. So that caused a lot of them to sell. So outfitting is non-existent here. There's there's a handful, and it's going extinct very quickly. And, the outfitting would lock up just thousands and thousands of acres to have non-residents come there, pay their money, and shoot usually the best 3 and 4 year old genetic bucks, not shoot any does, and it'd ruin areas. Like if outfitters popped up next to you, you're hunting.
It just happened. It happened.
Yeah, Caleb gets to tell a quick story real quick. He gets to interrupt and tell a story, and it'll be quick. We had one pop up within a mile of here, 1,000 acres, got locked up by an outfitter.
I'm sorry.
And for 3 years, I actually did not kill a buck during the period of time that the outfitter was there. Over 2 to 3.
What a coincidence.
Over a 2 or 3 season span, they killed, confirmed, I know for a fact, it was around 47 to 50 bucks. Out of the pictures they posted on the outfitter's website, out of 47 to 50 confirmed. That's not ones they didn't find. That's ones that were confirmed, found, posted on the internet. I want to say 4 may have been 3 years or older. The rest were all under the age of 3, a mile from me, a mile from where I'm sitting right here. And the
Ruins
population.
neighborhoods.
Oh, it was just, we still had a mature buck or two, a good one that 10 guys were hunting because he's the only 4 or 5 year old buck in the block. The rest of them are getting killed at the outfitter. It ended last year. This year was phenomenal. The hunting this year was absolutely phenomenal with them gone. They never killed a doe. I don't think they killed, maybe a third of them killed doe. So 50 people killed bucks, 15 killed a doe. 1,000 acres in Ohio, and 1,000 acres in this county would be a top 5 farm size-wise. Yeah, so one of the biggest farms in the entire county was outfitted, and it was a disaster.
There is nothing good that comes from outfitting. There is no reason any state should support outfitting. It's hurting the state. It's hurting the residents' access. It's hurting the management of the deer. There's so many downsides to outfitting. Now, with a straight face, I have some friends that are outfitters. And some of them do it disastrously. It's not personal. It's not like I hate that person, you know. But most of them, it's an absolute train wreck. A few, like 1 out of 100, does it right. Maybe.
We actually do know a guy that does it right. That's not too far from here.
He's
so individual rare with his clients, so he takes one client by himself and has an age structure and a limit and the whole 9 yards. It's not a free for all.
And our situation was even worse, without dropping names or saying specifics, because he would try to sue us.
And they're probably listening.
The outfitter that was here had very questionable morals, had been charged with crimes in other states for game laws, and so he was the worst of the worst, and he was the cheapest, probably the cheapest whitetail outfitter. I don't even know.
It was like $1,500 for a 1 week archery.
But even the guys that are salt to the earth, nice guys. Outfitting just results in people that just take, and they'll say, "Well, I put in a food plot, or I put in these feeders, or I did this." Dude, you're taking from the system. You're exploiting the system, and it's crushing the residents. You know, if I was in charge of any state, I would do everything I could to discourage outfitting, and limiting the non-resident draws does limit outfitting.
100%.
And outfitting, the only merit to outfitting, the only benefit to outfitting is I make my money from that. I make my living.
The individual makes his money, and that's it.
Yeah, but that's it. That's my livelihood. That's the only merit to it, though.
So you're taking advantage of the resource for your livelihood. Got it.
Yeah, cool. And it'd be the exact same, and I use the same analogy all the time, but it'd be the exact same as my buddy that's like, yep, I got a job as a telemarketer. That's my living. Great.
Cool.
Awesome, man.
Right.
Yeah, I hate
outfitting, Outfitting is the telemarketers of the hunting industry. It just is. It's the worst of the worst. And I'm not saying non-outfitters, there isn't some people who are bad dudes, poachers, people who are just there to take, people who abuse the system. I'm not saying that, but it's structured in a way where almost unanimously that's how outfitters function, you know, and trying to pencil some of this stuff out. Well, I leased this ground for 10 grand. So to make it work, I got to run way more hunters than I should through here and kill way more bucks than I should. And the age class gets destroyed and the buck to doe ratios get out of whack. I mean, it's just insanity. So absolutely don't want it. So, you know, really succinctly to put a fine point on our non-resident quota, at 6,000 with the least amount of whitetails and the least amount of habitat, if our state did make a change to that quota, they would reduce it because our residents are having problems with access today. They're having problems with getting a balanced age structure. We've actually killed too many does in Iowa because we're too effective. And so many residents are able to hunt. We don't have a doe problem. We have areas where way too many does are shot, and we have data that shows how many does we shoot compared to other states, and we do a phenomenal job.
Skip, what's the data
without crossbows? What's that?
Sorry, what's the data of your non-residents killing does? Because I use this example with Mike Rex, and I had a back and forth the other day, and I expressed how you guys do it is the reason I kill a doe when I come there, other than just because I want to do my part. But there's been this idea of free doe tags, just give them it's proven not to work. It doesn't work. What you guys do is when a non-resident draws a tag, you automatically get charged, I think it's $180 for a doe tag. It's like,
Yep.
hey, congrats, you drew a tag. Here is also $180 in addition to your tag for your doe tag. Well, now I'm already charged for it. I'm going to shoot a damn thing.
So I have to be honest with the data there. Less than 10% of the non-residents even still fill that tag, even though they had to buy it.
No
so
kidding.
Actually, that program for us doesn't work.
Okay.
In the post the other day, Mike had said that 50% of the non-residents fill their doe tags in Ohio.
That's not true. That's not
Okay,
true.
that's what he said.
Yeah. Well, I see. I would counter that with
five.
his report.
We're at 5. We're actually at 5%. The best I've ever heard was we get close to 10%, but it's under 10% at any data source you want to look at. Less than 10% of the non-residents shoot does. The residents are in any state are the people that shoot does. They control the deer numbers. They have 4 months to hunt, maybe 5 in some cases. They control the deer numbers. When you remove access for residents because of outfitters, because of non-residents leasing, because non-residents bought stuff up, now the residents don't have access to that land to shoot does. And that's why we're so effective in Iowa at shooting does, because the residents are the ones that do all the hunting, other than the 6,000 tags we give out.
Yeah, the trickle down.
Residents,
the trickle down effect of limiting non-residents is really kind of what I want everybody to start thinking about.
There's no downsides to it.
There's
only downsides to it. There's one downside to limiting the non-residents, and that's the almighty dollar. That's it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what.
That's it.
Mike asked me, have I considered the economic impact for these small towns if we limited the non-residents? And I'm like, I just don't think that's a great argument, because because now we have cell cams. These non-residents are not coming like they used to. They come for a week or two a year. If that is what makes or breaks your business, I'm sorry, that's not a great business model. You know what I mean?
Let's run through the economics here. Iowa, again, which has less deer, less tags purchased, all these things, just on gear, ammunition, license sales, basic hunting equipment, our deer hunting economy is $180 million a year without the non-residents. When you start factoring in all the guys, because we can't bait, that buy like no-till drills, get fertilizer, get seed, buy UTVs, travel, put up a cabin on their land, and then you start getting into what it's done to our land values, which has two sides, it has some negatives with it too, that it's brought it up. But we're actually closer to about $1 billion deer hunting economy for the residents every year. $1 billion in Iowa. I'm going to imagine Ohio, the real deer hunting economy number, it's more than Iowa.
Guarantee it.
You have more hunters. It's probably, if you traced it all out, like
we spent $1 billion on corn.
Yeah, that's.
I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me.
Our salad is more than your entire operation.
Yeah, and you look at what you guys spend on corn. And in Iowa, we end up spending that on the amount of effort and money and expertise that goes into proper forestry management here, where there's proper levels of browse, the timber's managed correctly, the oak regeneration is monitored and enhanced, and then other things like maybe we do diverse food plots, which don't have all the downsides that a corn pile has. Like, hey man, I got a clover field that's 1 acre. I might have a 3 acre bean field over there, which spreads things out. And I could give the list of negatives on bait, which are just astounding, but we don't have all those things. We have all these things where people are like, let's improve the soil, let's stop the erosion, let's plant some diverse food plots of all different things that help the insects, the birds, the turkeys. You go out to my corn that I leave today, which I don't even have to shoot deer off of it, but you go out to my cornfield and you flush pheasants out of it, quail out of it.
What's a pheasant?
It's covered for wildlife. It's not laying on the ground getting moldy, getting aflatoxins in it like corn piles, killing all the turkeys. You look at our turkey numbers compared to where I go in Kansas, where everything's littered with corn piles. We have tons of turkeys here, and in 25 years, I've watched the turkey numbers in Kansas plummet.
Oh,
Ours is
plummeted.
plummeted as well. It's not a coincidence.
Okay, well, it's because of the corn pile.
Yeah, it's not a
100%.
coincidence.
The aflatoxins in corn is wiping out bird populations.
100%.
It also kills some deer and other wildlife that eat it. I mean, I would just ask Ohio, why don't you guys legalize corn piles for turkey season? Go legalize corn piles for duck hunting.
It'd be
Why
way
not?
too. It'd be way. And
Why
I know what
not?
you're saying, but I like right now, without giving out too much examples. It's late season. There's people running corn. We're running corn every day. There's 100 turkeys on the one corn pile. 100 every day. It'd be too easy. It'd be
Okay.
impossibly easy to kill a bird within 1 hour on opening day.
I could give you 30 negatives to corn piles, 30, and I could probably bring it to 50. I mean, just you got to think ecology, how this affects this and this affects this, how it's impacting your timber, how it's impacting your oak regeneration, how it's impacting your turkeys, what it's doing to the habitat around these bait sites, what happens when the turkeys and deer get there and the coyotes and bobcats and stuff figure that out, and the predation is it's obscene around there, especially for the turkeys. I could give you 30 negatives, and people, will throw bombs at Iowa, like having diverse food plots and improving your timber and doing supplemental feed just for the benefit of the animal. Ohio could change the bait just on one basis. The turkey biologist could say, guys, you are doing immense harm to our turkey population, destroying it. This is not sustainable. You're doing immense damage. The forestry department could make an easy case to say, guys, what these corn piles are doing to the sustainability of our forests and the future of our hardwoods and stuff like that, you're destroying it. You're destroying the habitat. Just those two groups. And I could go on with 30 different things that are negatives to bait.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, Skip. I'm a pick your battles guy. I don't think crossbows or corn piles are going anywhere ever. It's one of those things. Now that they're here, they've always been here. I think for every one of us, there's 2 or 3 guys that hunt their 5 acres with corn and don't give a shit about any of that.
There's 16 of them that touch our farm.
But pick your battle. So if I call a spade, I say crossbows, negatives, more bucks probably get high graded. It hurts the age class. It actually hurts archery access. It makes it about impossible. It's just a culture of easy. I just want an easy button for everything.
Yep.
But it's not killing off turkeys. Right. It's not hurting your forest.
Right. No. And also the state would argue it's 72% of our total deer harvest is from crossbows.
Right. So if you're going to pick one battle or the other,
right,
there's no doubt in my mind, bait is the easy, it's a bad, and it's so obvious how detrimental it is, how it's ruining that state. It's ruining the ecology of that state. There's no biological or scientific argument to have corn piles thrown everywhere across that state.
Well, Clint McCoy was
20 years.
Yeah,
he was asked that. He was just on the Hunter podcast, our state biologist, and they asked him, "Could you give as a biologist a reason for baiting?" And he can't.
He said there was no positives from a biological standpoint.
From a biological, there is zero reason to do it.
So, guys, the
like taking
government
sugar out of
functions. The government functions not on emotion. The government functions and regulations function on data, on biological expertise. Go read the 7 pillars of the North American big game model of conservation. It is meant to be run by experts and like biologists, ecologists, people who are foresters. That's who's meant to be the experts in these categories.
It ain't here.
Stakeholder.
Stakeholders run it here.
Stakeholder.
So it is not meant to be run by the masses or some emotional tangent. I make money off a bait, or if I don't have a corn pile, I won't know how to hunt. That is not a merit to keep it. And when there is, I probably could come to 100 negative downsides, detrimental downsides to bait. The government should be weighing this out. That's actually how your DNR, how the responsibility of the state is constituted, and every state has different directives, but you're constituted to do what is best for the wildlife, what's best for the resource, what's most sustainable, how it impacts other things. That's what these agencies are tasked to do. So the people that are stopping these agencies from doing these things are actually doing the wrong thing. They're going against the facts, the data, and listen, I talked to the legislators and some of the biologists in your state, some at the DNR, and they're like, absolutely, dude, the bait needs to go. This is a disaster. But we get hit by certain people who are just me. I want it because of me, and they're pulling their hair out.
Skip, is your it's the Iowa DNR, right? Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Are they voted or appointed?
Iowa DNR would be just hired, I guess. I know them all. I mean, they had to interview for the job. We do have every state's run different. Some states have like a commission, so,
Right,
there's
like
7
we
of them at
have,
a table. Every state's a little bit different. Our DNR is hired. You interview for the position based on qualifications, and then you have certain powers to change things. And then we have a kind of a deer commission where some people are appointed to that, and they have a certain say on things. And then we also have a group where stakeholders from Farm Bureau, the Corn Growers Association, the forestry people, there's a board and there's a round table, and I'm part of that round table. So there's say there's 40 of us, farmers, corn growers, forestry, a conservation group here, maybe the turkey group. They have input on our deer hunting regulations as well. So we're run with common sense, and we're run by science, and we're run by, it is common sense. Here's the data. It's a no-brainer. If you tried to legalize bait in Iowa, you'd get laughed out of the room because they go, we're not taking on 50 negatives.
Yeah, right.
To get one positive. And listen, all these people that are like, I have to have a corn pile to hunt. I hunted on 2 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres growing up. I didn't even have money for bait, nor did I do it. But there's so many other things you can do to effectively kill deer.
Well,
a water hole, a trail, a funnel, a pinch point, a rub line, a mock scrape.
it's
The
interesting.
list is endless. A call, a decoy. They all have the same reason. I want to pull the deer to here, which is fine. And somebody say, well, you're putting a water hole there is the same reason as why I put my corn pile. Yeah, but the water hole doesn't have all those negatives. And there is all these alternatives to corn piles.
Yeah.
I mean, even a decoy, even a grunt call, that's an alternative. You're trying to get the deer to this spot, hunting this part of the woods where the deer funnel through there. That's the same idea. It's just getting deer within shooting range. So there's 100 different ways to get a deer within shooting range. But no, I can only do the corn pile. Just do the corn pile. That's the only thing I can do.
Yeah.
Really?
I found it interesting that when Mike was asked what his concern about eliminating bait would be, he said we would not have any hunters. Everybody would quit hunting. And the hunter survey did not reflect that.
15%.
Okay.
So only 15% of people said they would stop hunting. And I bet you they're bluffing.
Let's talk about this. Let's actually. So I get tired of this. Has nothing against Mike. This isn't a lob at Mike. I just get tired of people making these emotional tangents with no basis for it. So let's look at states that don't have bait, and let's look at their data. Iowa, for example, we have high hunter density, like I explained. The dynamics are actually very similar. All 3 of our R's were increasing or stable. We're not losing hunters. We're shooting too many does. So with your corn piles in Ohio, you guys are not shooting the right amount of does. Your age class is not ideal. It's just not. I've been around that whole state of Ohio. You have some mature bucks that you do, but it's getting top graded. Your balance between bucks and does, you have these pockets where nobody's shooting does. So the hunters are quitting in Ohio with the current situation. They're not shooting the does. Your age class is getting hammered. Your habitat is getting destroyed, all down the list. So what you're doing right now isn't working. So I'm worried about hunters quitting. They already are.
Right.
I'm worried
Skip,
the hunters won't shoot the
I have
does.
a question.
They're not shooting them right now.
I have
And
a
in Iowa, they are.
I have a quick question for you, Skip. I have a ton of notes that I would love to go through, and I don't even think we'll ever have time to go through all this stuff I wrote
We can
down.
go rapid fire.
But one, and we are going to, because I know Jay wants to talk to non-resident numbers, and that's a big part in the access stuff. But I don't want to take away from his time. But I have a ton of stuff. But one of them that keeps coming up that I want to bring up, and I don't know if it's the same for you guys. In Iowa, if you would go out and shoot a doe and take it to a processor, how much does that cost you?
Quite a bit, a lot.
Yeah.
Probably in the hundreds if you want to get specialty stuff done. It's very expensive.
We are in the same boat, and that is becoming a huge problem because people would not be opposed to shooting more does and or eating them, but they're not processing them in their residential neighborhood themselves. We kill a shit ton of deer here in our operation, and we process our own, so it's not apples to oranges. But if you would take a doe to a processor, get some stuff made, you're looking at $250 to $300 every time. That is a huge reason as to why people aren't shooting them. Who wants to spend that kind of money on a doe? And especially the non-residents, because they can't legally take the carcass out of our state. So you come in for a week, shoot a doe, take it to a processor, spend $250, and then you go hunt your buck. You're already paying $400 for the tag. We're talking thousands and thousands of dollars. The diehards like us will blink at that. Whatever, I don't care. I'll spend it.
Yeah.
But the average hunter is not going to spend that money. They're just not going to do it.
Yeah. So I would say we have the exact same issue in Iowa. More hunters have learned to even go in their garage, and shut the garage door and cut up their own deer, and that's what I do.
Well,
I actually have a little drain in my garage, which other people probably don't, but I could wipe it off with a hose at the end and be fine. And I just process my own. So that's a problem. I would say the bigger reason people aren't shooting does in Ohio is because so many parcels are locked up for access. The residents don't have access to shoot them. And then I would say, they're so like in a lot of these areas, they're like the big bucks are so rare. There's so few of them that I'm not gonna shoot a doe and screw up my chance.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. That's a big part of it because we call it. We refer to it here as the deer wars. So in the block, you may have, let's just take your 640 acre block, right? Your square mile. You might have one mega super mature 5-6-year-old deer, and that's the top of the line. Couple 3-4-year-olds. The competition for that deer is high, right? So there's 640 acres cut into 100 different landowners. 80% of those guys are hunting. So you're already looking at maybe 75 to 80 guys are hunting a block for the one really good and the three high graded 3 and 4 year olds, like you talked about, reference a good 140 inch 4-year-old. Those deer are extreme competition, right? So it's late October, extreme competition. I'm not going to fuck up my hunt by shooting a doe tonight. He might step out in the food plot, or I know he was in this field last night, so I'm not shooting a doe tonight. And that continues on
for a month.
until February. Yeah, we just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. You end up not shooting a doe and maybe getting your buck. One of those guys gets the buck,
My thoughts is I know how that works. Everybody's dumping corn pile after corn pile after corn pile out. And I actually don't blame the hunters for doing it. I blame the regulations that allow them to do that craziness. And a lot of them, I talk to them all the time. Good people like, dude, if I don't throw out that corn pile, I hate them. But if I don't do it, the neighbor's going to suck them over there and I'm not going to get a chance. So it becomes this giant competition. And then everybody's like, I'm definitely not shooting does on my little parcel or any parcel because I don't want to screw up that chance at that buck. And, never know. He could be following that doe and just down the list. That scenario just doesn't have any upsides. Why anyone would want to emulate that. And really with the baiting and having a system like that where people are just doing that, they're just what you're doing right now in Ohio is not working and it's getting worse. So the amount of bait, like I was in Ohio 20 years ago, the amount of bait now compared to 20 years ago is obscenely different. Like it's gotten to a level, it's like, oh my gosh, it's littered everywhere. So yeah, you got 640 with 15 different guys and everybody's like, how much bait can I throw out? I'll just beat the next guy. I'll just load it up. Or the guy that has the biggest parcel and the deepest pockets, he's like, I'll get dump trucks of bait. I'll get dump trucks of corn. And so I can outbait the littler guys. And the I don't like doing class warfare because it's a waste of time. But the rich guy saying, "Hey, I border some public land. Well, I'll get all the deer off there where the poor people have to hunt, and I'll pull them onto my land with these giant corn piles." And then the guys on public land are like, "No deer here. This sucks." The guy with the rich guy pulled them all off with his corn piles. There's just no positives to it. And really, the only reason it doesn't get eliminated is because you have people who are not following science and following how wild game is supposed to be managed, what they're constituted to do, and you don't have anybody with guts that will say, "I'm going to make the right decision." And I know you guys that sell bait are going to whine at me and cry, and the guys that are like, "Well, I don't know how to hunt without a corn pile," they're going to cry at you. You have to have an adult in the room and a leader that's like, no, no, no. That's not how we make our decisions. We make our decisions based on science, what's best with the resource, based on talking to the other governmental agencies, based on ecology, all these other things. That's how you make your decisions. And it's very obvious how that decision should be made. And again, these reasons not to remove it, they won't shoot does and hunters will quit. You guys are already having that problem, and that problem is getting worse. So try something different, which we know works. We know that not having bait works, and we know that states like Iowa, and I can cite a few others, the hunters are not quitting. Ours, like I said, are stable to inclining to going up. And we shoot too many does in the state of Iowa. Like, it's problematic. And the other way you get people to shoot does too is by having some more mature bucks, and people are going to have to think through that. Why, use some intellect there. But the more you have quality bucks, and there's more of them, then there's not that mad competition, the mad thing. Well, I'm after the only buck. Like, even in Kansas, which does allow bait, it causes a lot of problems. There's quite a few mature bucks, and in both Iowa and Kansas, mature buck rates are pretty high. And in both of those regions, you don't need to shoot any does. We've gone too far in both those situations. So a better quality deer herd balance with a balanced age structure. It's not about giant high scoring deer. It's just a balanced age structure will have people shooting more does because they're not fighting over those tiny few bucks that are out there. Make it so there's more of those bucks, so it's better quality for the whole state and every hunter, and that will actually help the everyday dude the most, not the rich guy. The rich guy's always going to be fine. I'm actually saying do things that help the everyday guy. And listen, the only other side of that coin of the everyday guy. Well, what about the guy with 5 acres? Listen. You can go to any 5-acre parcel in Iowa and anywhere I know, and shoot deer, especially in 4 months. You don't need a corn pile, and there's all these alternatives to it. Like I said, water holes, scrape lines, just hunting how deer naturally move, having to learn how deer work in the woods, knowing what an oak tree is and that they eat acorns, figuring out basic things. We don't have to just become a culture of sissy wussy hunters that whine about it.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that crazy word woodsmanship, right?
Yeah, I mean, and listen, you make it easy for all these kids. You throw them in front of corn piles, and I've actually got data on this, and I also have anecdotal data to add to it. My anecdotal is more fun. My anecdotal is all the kids I talk to that are like, "Yeah, it was lame. Dad threw me in front of a corn pile. I shot him with my gun or my crossbow after the cell cam told me the deer was there. I don't want to do that anymore. I think I'm just going to play video games or do something." It doesn't captivate kids. So non-bait
I would
actually
agree.
captivate
Well,
hunters.
we had that podcast,
I would
and we
agree
had
with
we had a whole podcast on that, and on how I said, making it easier is not doing it. We're not doing any favors.
It's preventing the kids from buying into it.
It's hurting.
It's not a challenge.
It's hurting the future of hunting. It's absolutely hurting the future of hunting.
We are so passionate about
coddling these
hunting.
kids.
And we're so passionate about hunting now because when we were younger, it was so hard.
Oh, we sucked. we were so bad at hunting when
And
we were younger.
Everybody did.
Yeah, and when we got our first deer, it was a huge thing. If we went out and saw a couple deer, that was a good hunt.
Okay,
We're
so
trying
take
to shoot
yourself
at them
back.
with our.
Take yourself back to the first time you hunted. If Dad stuck you in front of a corn pile because the cell cam said that there was a deer there, and every time you went out, you're like, "Yep, I got one," or kind of like that. Like,
Yeah, we wouldn't hunt today. There's zero
exactly.
chance we'd be
You
hunting
would
today.
not be. All my buddies growing up, I mean, every one of them, and I could list their names, and they're not watching this because they don't hunt. They never would. They quit hunting. All of them that I can think of where dad had a little money and they'd throw them in front of sugar beets, apples, corn, whatever. And I'd go to their deer camps, and all those kids, because that was an opportunity for me just to be around, see deer, and I go with them. And all those dudes that did that, they don't hunt today. All of them quit. All my friends growing up quit that got thrown in front of corn pots.
We have a
Does
buddy.
not retain hunters.
We have a buddy who's probably listening. I won't say his name. Killed a deer today. He killed a deer last night and found it with his drone this morning. He had his daughter. He's in a similar situation. He had his daughter a couple years ago with her crossbow kill a 145, 150 class 10 pointer, just real nice deer. She's I don't know. She's probably 6, 5, 4, 6 years old, something like that. I don't know. I don't think she's hunted since.
Yeah, I don't know.
So like she went out and was able to kill a deer bigger than most deer that anyone would ever kill, and I don't believe that she has hunted since. To be honest with you,
My son just
you know what I'm
walked out
saying.
the
So like
door.
that's data that proves it right there. You know.
Oh yeah, my son just walked out the door. He's 14. He hunted 2 years before he even shot a doe, and I was like, the first deer you're shooting is a doe. It's not a buck. And then he was able to shoot, like, because we do have older deer here, I'm like, you can shoot one that kind of looks like a 2-year-old or a year and a half, like an 8-point, an old one. You know, he was able to shoot that. I didn't bring him out like, yeah, let's go shoot a 180. You know, if you do that, I'm not faulting people. I'm not throwing stones with this, and I'm not trying to offend anybody. But I would just strongly make the case that these kids that go out and shoot this bomber during youth season, they're not going to be hunters later. The majority of them, it's
On the
not a
flip- on
good
the
thing for them.
Couldn't agree more.
On the flip side, we have a couple little cousins. I call them little. The one's got a girlfriend now in a truck and doing all that kind of stuff. But they're 17 to 13 years old cousins. Their dad had them out hunting in tree stands with regular bows at 10 years old, freezing their nuts off. Shot, start with a 106-inch deer and upgrade to a 120. They both killed 140s this year, like men, out of tree stands with their bows. As teenagers, and they've already killed. They each probably have 3 or 4 bucks underneath their belt now, and they're properly addicted forever kind of thing. But it's a stage. It wasn't handed to them. They had to learn. They had to freeze for a while and be up in a tree and learn their fear of heights and all the things that come with that get you addicted at our level. They had to start at their level and do that kind of thing.
It takes, I mean, it might take a hunting season to kind of get this down a little bit. And you're like, well, that was 15 hunts I had to do before I finally got it figured out. And I'm going to see if I can find the photo of when it finally did work out for me when I was a little kid. And, I came from a family that didn't hunt. I just walked around. I was the worst hunter on earth. Just terrible. And see if I can find that.
I mean, I didn't kill my first really, really good buck till I was like 28 years old. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I wasn't in my teens and early 20s killing 150s or 140s. It didn't happen till later in life for me, even though I hunted a lot, And
we were just out there figuring it out all on our own, what we learned on the internet, what Jay told us, what we learned from Dad, even though he wasn't much of a hunter.
Yeah, I mean, it was a different path to get where we are now today than what a lot of kids had to go through. But
well, I would say the path that we had in the 90s, 2000s, a lot of the technologies we didn't have, I'd say that probably created the most hardcore, caring, want things to be better, don't want to see things ruined culture out there. So, okay, see if you can see this. That's me at 14.
Yeah, that's great.
we got some of those around here somewhere. We've killed a bunch of those.
Yes. So that was after hunting a whole season, walking around. I didn't hunt in tree stands. I just walked around. And I'd see tails, and I'm like, oh, I almost got one. And nobody said, like, do this, don't do that. The wind goes this way. Deer don't want to smell you. It's not going to be good. I didn't know any of this stuff. And so a kid with no training that was the dumbest, worst hunter on earth somehow got a buck. And I just kept doing it. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I noticed they don't like when I do this. And maybe I shouldn't just walk around and, explain the tree stand thing to me. Okay, I'll just sit on this limb because I can't afford a tree stand. And I got it done that way. And when I got that deer, I was so excited. It's a little deer, and I was like hooked for life. you're not going to get me to quit hunting. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Dad throws me in front of a corn pile and I shoot a 150. I would have been done. Would have been
Right.
done.
Because you've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Got,
So-
got my
just-
trophy. I don't want to be cold. No
There-
need to. I already
there's
got a
just
big buck.
something to be said about earning it.
Yeah, move on to the next dopamine rush. That's what they
you
do.
know, there's going to be scenarios where I could make it easy for my kid now, and I purposely made it difficult. And some people have that foresight, and some people don't. Some people don't care. I'm not saying my way's right too, or any view. I might disagree with the things I say right here. Like 2 weeks from now, I change my mind on things a lot. I'm very open minded, but I think about this stuff nonstop. But. So I'll just say one thing though: self-regulation, and this is a good idea, and don't do this. Pass these bucks up because there is only one buck left, and there's 500 does that are on the landscape. So pass it up. Human nature can't do that. Okay, there's no case in history where humans can self-regulate. It has wiped out the big game animal every time it's been tried. In Iowa, we made the white-tailed deer go extinct. We killed every big game animal across the state. Self-regulation does not work. So if we don't have regulations that make hunting difficult, if it's just killing and just shooting now, we will shoot them all. We'll kill them all. If you made the season year round and you could use thermals or you could use a spotlight and shoot them out of truck windows, people would do it, and they do it anyways here. That's why I know they do it, because they still do it, even though it's illegal. So tight regulations are the only thing that will save hunting. It's the only thing. And let me put it to you succinctly. Tight regulations will fix all these issues that you guys have. They'll fix all the issues. They'll fix all the issues in these states. Maybe not at a local level. Maybe you have neighborhoods that get hammered, but over large areas. Tight regulations fix these problems. Insane regulations do whatever you want. This is allowed. That's allowed. That weapon's allowed. That technology is allowed. Corn pile, crossbow, cell cam, gun. Anything goes, people. That ruins the resource every time. Every time it's been tried in human history.
Is the Iowa DNR well funded?
Pretty well funded, yeah.
So
It's tight.
here's our problem. We don't have enough officers to do anything about this stuff.
Yeah,
we have one per
there.
county. One
Okay.
per county.
We're one for 2 counties. So
If
when
you
I
get
say
100
well-funded,
trespassing complaints, how many of those can you follow up on opening day of deer season?
2.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. No,
How-
we
if you get
have the
if
same
someone
issue
calls
here.
and says there's a dude who just shot 20 minutes after dark off his back porch, the game warden has 100 calls backlogged before he can even get to that one in
Yep.
order to find evidence and
I think
convict.
that's pretty universal.
Yeah, and,
You know,
and it's
that's not
hugely
u-
unfortunate.
That's not unique to
Same in
Ohio.
Iowa. When I say we're well funded, when it comes to DNR officers, we're not well funded. I'm just saying the DNR as a whole is doing okay.
Gotcha.
We need to raise
Gotcha.
revenue, but you could also fix that. If you said, "Hey, Skip, magically you're in charge of Ohio for a week," I'd fix that instantaneously. I'd raise non-resident tag prices. I'd put like a 5,000 tag limit, and I'd put them at $5,000 a piece, and I'd put all that money to game officers and so on. And
Well, it's
listen,
funny you say that because I did those numbers. I did the numbers for Ohio with an Iowa model, and up front we lose a little bit of money, but after the average of 6 to 7 years to draw a tag for $75 a preference point, and then if you do it like the Western states do smartly, charge the full cost up front, wait 6 months, and sit on that interest that the state's collecting. We're ahead after 6 years. We're making more revenue over the tags than we do now with 40,000 people consistently at $400 a tag.
our charity tags, which are a great thing, our charity tags that go to conservation organizations in the state of Iowa, those get auctioned off for charity, which is great. Those go for over $40,000 to hunt a deer. So, people would say stuff like, well, if you charge the non-residents $3,000 for a tag, you're making it a rich man's sport. No, we're not. I'm saying keep the price of the tags for the residents very low because it's a necessity for the residents to hunt. That is their resource. They own it. They vote there. It should be very accessible
They're
for them
paying
to
the
hunt.
taxes.
For a non-resident to travel to Ohio, to leave a state that has as many deer, probably more, to hunt the exact same animal as what they're fleeing because their system is broken, to shoot that animal is a luxury to come to Ohio. It is a luxury to come shoot an older buck in Ohio because Michigan's ruined. That's a luxury. You don't need to give these guys discount pricing because they're charity cases. And when I go to Kansas as a non-resident, they should charge me a heck of a lot more than they charge the residents because it is a luxury for me to go there and shoot a mature buck. It is. And it's a necessity for the residents to be able to feed their family, to have access to land, have access to quality experience. That's who you need to keep the cost low for.
Absolutely, and that's what it all comes back to, right? So there's a reason Ohio resident licenses are going down, non-residents are staying steady, if not uptick. That to me tells me Ohio residents are having a worse experience than non-residents.
So in that situation, two groups, residents, non-residents, who should your deer commission, DNR, legislator, whatever, who should they be helping? The residents that live there, pay taxes there 365 days a year, pay state income taxes there, and vote there, or the non-residents that is fleeing their broken state to go shoot a deer there that maybe is there for 2 and 3 weeks. Well, I pay my property taxes. So does the resident. The resident also pays taxes there 365 days a year. The non-resident doesn't. And guess what? That non-resident, they didn't buy their bow there. They bought their bow in their home state. They bought their gun in their home state. They bought that truck in their home state. The resident spends all their money there. That's who you should be supporting. And I'm not sitting here trying to knock the non-resident because I am that dude. I've been that dude.
Same.
I'm just saying you should, any state should be prioritizing the resident over the non-resident every time. And so I'm offending people, but I'm also talking about the state you live in too. If you're from Wisconsin, you should be taking care of the citizens and voters and residents of Wisconsin more than the people in Iowa, for example. And listen, I can come because I'm older. I'm fine financially now. I mean, I'm not hurt. I could come to Ohio tomorrow with my checkbook and find places where you guys have permission to hunt. If you're like, hey, I can't afford 10 grand for a lease, and I could be like, hey, all these guys that have been your buddies, you let them go out there. Here's a check. Can you get them out of there? And you're gone. And that shouldn't be that way. You need to.
Right.
They should be prioritizing the residents and the voters of that state. And if you guys have plenty of access, man, great deer on the public lands. It's pristine. It's well managed. Plenty of room. Finding places to hunt, no problem. Okay, let some non-residents come in then when that's the case. But I don't think that's the case.
Well, and the data shows that.
I don't hear from anybody in Ohio that says that's the case. Like zero.
Yeah, Skip, the data shows that in the most recent report of the 40,000 non-residents, X check amount of tags filled, they have to say where they killed it, private or public. Guess how many guess what percentage of non-residents killed their deer on public land in Ohio?
No clue.
15%. 85% of our non-residents are hunting private land. You cannot tell me when that's not an access issue for the resident.
Is your access in the state of Ohio in the last 10 years, has it gotten better or has it gotten worse?
It's a no-brainer. It's the reason people are leaving Ohio to hunt and not even getting themselves a tag.
Well, and a lot of it's not because of hunting too. A lot of it's because of urban sprawl. So
sure,
all these old farms are getting,
we have that here too.
Sold off and lotted out to housing developments.
Is the use and the prevalence of corn piles across the landscape in the last 10 to 15 years, has the use of corn piles increased or decreased or stayed the same?
Exactly. Exploded.
Oh, when we first started hunting, no one baited. Yeah, no one baited when we started. This is all new.
20 years ago, going to these different states, I get and they're all kind of the same. But I'm like, when I reference Kansas, it was legal back then, but it wasn't a problem because I'm like, I never saw a corn pile ever. And I'm sure there were a few around. But you go there 5 years ago to today, and I mean, they're littered everywhere, littered. And that is in that time where corn pile usage went like this. I mean, it was like it's like this, like insane littering of the ecosystem. There literally was fields where I saw 100, 150, 200 turkeys. I mean, like I'm like, oh my gosh, you could just mow these things down. It's obscene. And now those same places, I'm like, hey, there's two of them over there. There's one. There's
Yeah.
none. They're gone. They're
You're
gone.
preaching to the choir on that, because me and Jay are absolutely obsessed with turkey hunting. Like he goes out to Nebraska and Montana and hunts turkeys in western states just because. And I travel to West Virginia, Pennsylvania. I fucking love turkey hunting so much, and it sucks here. It sucks. That
Well, I mean,
640 acre block will have one
And
gobbler.
they've had to adjust tag numbers because of it.
Yeah, we used to be a
Okay.
2-bird state. We're down to a 1-bird state, and I'm not joking. A 640 acre block will have one gobbler. One.
Two things. How don't the turkey hunters, the turkey biologists, the economics of turkeys, the kids that want to turkey hunt, how don't they have a voice at the table here? Because they're being
It makes me-
completely
it-
ignored and
Yeah.
steamrolled. Second,
It really makes me wonder.
we have way less habitat and way less ideal habitat than you guys do. I can kill on my farm if I wanted to. I mean, 15 gobblers and it wouldn't be that big a deal.
I haven't seen 15 gobblers in the last 20 seasons.
Okay,
But I still love turkey hunting.
I'm saying my farm. If you looked at my farm, how it laid out, it looks just like the farms I go to in Ohio. They're almost like, oh, I didn't realize I was 500 miles away or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's infinite turkeys. You can go out to where my son's hunting tonight, and I could take a video. I could timestamp it right now, and I could text my son and say, hey, take a video of all the turkeys that are in front of you right now. I already know what's there. And he'd see 100 turkeys tonight, 75.
Do you know where the most turkeys are killed in the United States? Pennsylvania.
Don't. Really?
And do you know how much does Pennsylvania allow baiting?
No. And people would say, well, they still do it some, but
They do still do
they're-
it some, but
it's
the
a
state
lot.
that kills the most
not
turkeys,
comparable.
with no ag and no baiting.
It-
I mean, it's
and
beautiful.
people
over there
will
for turkey
say,
hunting.
people will still bait. Well, there will be some baiting, but especially with even like drones and just how small neighborhoods are with fences. If somebody's baiting across the fence, pretty easy to see and call that in. Pretty easy to see. And especially with drones, if people are baiting. So it might happen a little bit like, hey, this guy broke the law. He didn't get caught. He kept doing it. Eventually they do get caught. But you say, no, it's not against the law. You guys can do it. And everybody, instead of, the few lawbreakers, now everybody joins in. And it's like, hey, there was 5 lawbreakers that threw out corn piles before. Now there's 100 dudes that weren't lawbreakers. They all throw out. So, I mean, it's multiplied by like 20, 10, 20. I mean, exponentially increases if you say, yeah, free for all, guys. Everybody throws out corn piles. And the guy who's like, I freaking hate this. I hate what it's doing. Again, it's a competition though, so I got to go throw out corn piles. And
that's the thing,
nothing good comes from it.
There's no bonus points for being a Boy Scout anymore. If you want to hunt northeast Ohio and you want to kill deer consistently kill deer and have a good experience doing it, if you decide that you're not going to be a baiter, all you're doing is hunting deer that are on their way to other people's bait piles. So you're kidding yourself. You're kidding yourself if you think any other way.
That's
it's
why
unfortunate.
Self-regulation never works. That's
right.
Well, if you don't like bait, then don't do it. No. This is a shared resource, and if I don't like bait and I decide not to do it because of how bait works, all my neighbors have all the deer now. That's not fair to that guy. We need to all be on this equal playing field.
Unfortunately, every turkey that I've killed here on this farm in the springtime, for some reason, somehow, don't know how to explain it, has corn in its stomach. Even though baiting's illegal for turkeys and the fields have been bare since October of the year before, somehow that turkey has corn in its belly. And I don't know how to explain that.
Ask your turkey biologist for the state of Ohio and say you have to tell the truth, like you're under oath. Do corn piles kill turkeys? Do the aflatoxins kill turkeys? Yes, they do.
I
Do
think
they-
Javen's really involved in that right now. Isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. I talked to him yesterday. He said to say
No.
hi, by the way.
Javen's awesome. Javen and Kevin are awesome guys. The Hunters Advocate of
Javen?
Ohio. Everybody listening to this should be joining the Hunters Advocate of Ohio. You guys
Okay.
should meet with them.
I-
And
no,
Ted,
I already
yeah,
am.
yeah, Hunter
Um,
podcast. Yeah.
you know, I mean, one thing you didn't hear me talk about at all with the bait is CWD, but you know, and there's a reason for that. I mean, I'm skeptical of that. I just am. But I don't need to talk about CWD to say there's 100 other downsides we can get into. And even
That's just one of those 100.
Yeah, even with birds, like the disease transmission with birds, like just like the flu, bacteria, stuff like that. That's actually absolutely proven. I mean, go Google this. Like, use AI, Grok, ChatGPT, Google, whatever. What does corn piles? What negative impacts does corn piles have on turkeys? I'm making this stuff up. I mean, this is not hard to find this stuff. So when it's this obvious that there's this many downsides, and one Google search can show you, bing, 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 all these negatives to the ecosystem, to the forestry. Why aren't people changing it? And the reason is they're afraid to do it, and they're afraid to get that call from the guy that's complaining. They're afraid to be the adult in the room with a bunch of children, and they're letting the inmates run the asylum. I mean, you need a leader. You need somebody that says, "No, I'm the leader." And that's how wildlife should be managed, is by an agency that has.
I'm really skeptical, and I'm not. So I'm going to ask this rhetorical question, right? So, like, considering non-residents and this opposition to start limiting tags, what's in it for you? What's in it? So I have to ask whoever's opposed to it on the commission or at the ODNR, what's in it for you?
Right.
Are you running a outfitter? Do you make money off of non-residents? Just curious, because that's a hell of a conflict of interest.
Well, it's
Exactly.
weird because
Go ahead.
so from what I understand from listening to the last Hunter podcast, and we referenced it multiple times in Clint, he is the head wildlife biologist for the deer herd in Ohio. He makes recommendations to the Special Wildlife Council. They can simply approve or deny any regulation or rule right then and there.
Yeah, he makes no decisions.
Mike Rex could say, you know what? You're right. Baiting is bad for turkeys and deer. We will stop it today. What makes him? Why doesn't he do that?
So I don't know. I
don't understand why he doesn't just do it. He has the power to do it.
I don't think he does. So Skip, maybe you can shed some light on this.
You guys would know your system better than I do.
Well, but what differentiates an ODNR decision, whether it's legislative or whether it's just a council decision? So, like, I've read that when it comes to like changing the non-resident system, that might be a legislative path, which is much more difficult.
I mean, your states run different than mine. Every state has a different system on how laws get changed. Some states have more, the DNR has more power. And in any one of those cases, out west is a great example. The DNR has the power. They're like, I'll make up some examples. Hey, we're being overrun by non-residents. They just cut the tags. And if they get whiners, they go, I don't care. It's best for the resource. And people chirp for about a month, and then they get over it. And they go, no, we don't care about you whiners. We're going to do what's best for the resource. Hey, no trail cameras on water holes for elk anymore. Oh, and people had a tantrum for about 30 days, and they got over it, and they went, oh, it's actually good. Because there's more people in the background that are like, we actually want what's best for the resource. Even stuff where the adults in the room in Indiana said, let's go from $2 to $1. And the group had a tantrum, but hardly anybody shooting $2. You're taking away things from me. And they went and whined, and they changed it anyways because they had adults in the room, which is exactly what I'm talking about. They changed it. Everybody went, well, this is a lot better. Thank you.
I love Indiana's model. I enjoy. I hate name dropping states because it's not good, but we hunt Indiana on public land, and we very much enjoy the way it is. Because
Indiana's amazing.
Lots of access. The deer are good. The habitat's awesome. The people are nice. Like, that's a great model, but I wasn't gonna.
The only thing they don't do is limit the non-residents, and if they
Yeah.
did that, I'm
So-
sure it would be closer.
and
to
I would
Iowa.
deal with it if they did. If they did, I would deal with it.
Well, they probably should. And, when I say no state does things perfect, I mean that, Indiana included. I mean, Mike Pence legalized rifles instead of shotguns. The guy's a dope. That's why I never liked Mike Pence. It's because he messed with Indiana's. deer
I hate all politicians, so it doesn't even matter.
No, I like some of them. I like some, but I uniquely don't like Mike Pence. And is it because of the January 6th thing?
you
I'm
can
like,
use
no,
center
it's what he
fire.
did.
You can
It's,
use center fires in Indiana now.
Yeah, so that was stupid, but that's not that big a deal. If they move their gun season back 14 days, Indiana
Yeah.
would be.
So that's we run into that problem too, because we like to hunt the peak of our rut here in Ohio, and then it was nice to be able to go and hit Indiana. We get late October, early November here in Ohio, which is like pre-rut, and then scrape activity followed by the first dose. And then you go out to Indiana. The problem is the gun season opens up.
Yeah,
And
it starts coming in second
Once
week.
that gun season opens in November 12th, whenever that second week or second Saturday or whatever, then you don't want to be in the woods.
you know
what I
where
mean? You
all
don't want to
the,
be in the woods for that.
You know where all the serious deer hunters in Ohio travel or in Iowa travel to?
Where?
They don't. They don't leave.
So,
I
but I,
go
was
to-
gonna ask. I got a quick.
I go
one,
to
though. So-
Kansas and my buddies still make fun of me for this. They're like, "Wait, you can shoot $3 here," which I don't. Why do you go to Kansas? And I'm like, I don't know, just to see some different stuff. Because
why
I
we go
used
to
to go there
Pennsylvania.
25 years ago.
Well,
but
we go to a deer camp in West Virginia every year. We go to West Virginia every single year and fucking love it. But we're not chasing the same deer. You know what I mean?
it's an emotional thing on why, a nostalgic thing on why I go to Kansas. If somebody said, "Hey, man, just based on shooting deer, Kansas just closed up to non-residents. You can't go there anymore." I'd be okay. I won't go there. I don't need to go there. I just go there for fun. But 99.9% of the people in Iowa, they don't go somewhere else to hunt during deer season. Where every single serious hunter I know from the Broken States, like Michigan, Michigan people are usually going to Ohio, some Indiana. They'd come to
we
Iowa.
get a lot of West Virginia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. So
Yeah.
for whatever reason, North Carolinians like to travel. They come into West Virginia and they also come up into Ohio and hunt those.
I'll bet you
areas.
get a lot of people from Georgia too.
Yeah,
Yes.
I haven't. We haven't
got
really
numbers?
done the public land thing.
Jay's
in
got
Ohio
numbers.
in a while.
Okay, so-
Jay probably has the actual numbers.
I have,
actually.
there's it broke down like where they're from. Oh, here it is. The top 5 non-resident states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, West Virginia, North Carolina, and Florida.
Yes, exactly.
So I hit 4 of them. I missed one. I missed Florida. Holy shit, Florida. That's
Your residents
well,
just have,
snowbirds. Snowbirds.
they must have just so much access, so many mature bucks to hunt that they're like, let's just share this. We got to share this.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing.
And this was my point to Mike was we not the whole supply and demand thing. When you look at the non-resident situation in Ohio, we are the first and closest big buck state to the most amount of hunters in America.
Yeah.
Unsustainable.
From
10,000.
New England to Florida, the most amount of hunters in America. We're the first big buck state you can come to.
Okay.
And it's come one, come all.
We allow 6,000, and there's actually quite a bit of public pressure, rightfully so, to reduce that amount. Like they're like, guys, we've got access problems as it is. But like I said, less than 5% of our land is leased. Outfitting's non-existent. It's just we have such little habitat. So we're having a push, and I'm not saying I'm supporting this at all. I'm giving my opinion. But there's a push to lower from 6,000 to less. Well, you guys, and we have a very high hunter density per habitat acre, like I said. I mean, you guys could easily justify, 5,000 limit. I mean, honestly, if we're just calling a spade and just going off of facts, data, the issues at hand, you could make a case for 0 non-residents. I mean, there is a logical case. If this played out in a court of law based on facts, and you had 2 sides and a judge or a jury, you could make the case for not zero non-residents because you have so little access right now. You're hemorrhaging access. Your resources being degraded. It's causing all these other issues that if this went to some make-believe court, the court would say, yeah, you guys shouldn't let in any non-residents. You guys need to take care of your residents first. I mean, there's a
I
legitimate
wouldn't wanna
case
see
I
to
that,
just
make
I
it.
just
obviously,
can't, like, everybody wants to be so data driven, and I'm like, okay, let's do that. Someone explain to me why the resident license sales continually goes down year after year when the non-resident stays the same, if not upticks.
Okay, and I'm not meaning to provoke anybody to attack
There's no
anybody to
rules
come
here.
off.
There's no rules.
Okay,
No rules.
but if that was a business, like, hey man, I own a small business, right? And I worked for somebody, I'm running that business. I would get fired. That'd be the equivalent of, hey, your business keeps losing sales. Your profit margin is going down. The competition's eating you alive. We have all these problems. I'd get that business would go out of business,
Yep.
and the leadership would get fired. And that is not attacking anybody. It's not personal to Mike at all. It's not personal to anybody. It truly isn't. I'm just saying, when the resource has these trajectories and the data shows what it does, no business can function like that. And you can also replicate that across so many different government agencies and the waste, the fraud, the abuse. I mean, this common with
Imagine
government,
being in
right?
Minnesota.
Right.
I do want to make a quick thing for Mike. Mike, I want the listeners to understand, Mike is part of a council. He is the most accessible member of that council. I mean, he makes himself very accessible. He will interact with you on messaging and on Facebook. So he catches a lot of shrapnel because, he is so accessible. But if you're going to take on that responsibility and exchange messages and voice like his concerns about limiting non-residents, like the small business, you have to be able to be challenged on that as well.
But you should be, when you work
Right.
in the public sector, you should be relating with the public, and you should be answering questions. To put yourself in this little tower where no one has access to me. That's
Right.
not how our system was meant. We're not ruled by kings. And he should be accessible, so I applaud him for that. And make no mistake, like, I don't know Mike personally, and like several of my buddies are like, hey, look at this post on that Iowa forum on Facebook. His post was great. His openness, his candidness, his dialogue back and forth, fantastic. That's how it
Yep.
should be, so I applaud him for that. So
Yep.
I can't say enough. It's certainly not personal against him. And if somebody said, "Hey, man, try and point the finger at somebody," which I'm not necessarily doing. There's a lot of special interests that have behind the scenes pressure. And don't you say that? Don't you do this? And then, like, the guy that makes a bunch of money selling bait might get in somebody's ear, not my whoever. Say, man, don't you take away my bait, or I'll primary you. I'll get you thrown out of office. I mean, there's all there's all sorts of scumbag stuff that goes on in politics, wildlife management, all sorts of stuff. And just to throw this one little point out there, me talking on here, I think we should. I have nothing to gain from this. There's no money at stake for me. I'm not going to go hunt Ohio. I want Ohio to get good so I can go buy land there and shoot giant deer. I have no motivation. I'm set for hunting, and I'm even set as far as Iowa goes. It's just, I don't want to see Iowa ruined, and I don't want to see all these other states ruined for kids in the next generation.
Well, yeah, it's the
that were
legacy.
like me. I want these kids to have the same upbringing I did, and at least the same opportunities to have these experiences that allowed me to get into this. I want that for the kids, So none of this is about me. And I just say, whenever somebody's voicing an opinion on something, just understand what their influence is. Well, you can't take something away from me. I need these corn piles because I don't know how to hunt without them. Well, you got a bias. You've got you've got skin in the game that way, and you need to account for that. And I'm not saying everything I'm saying is right. There's things I got wrong and things people will disagree with, but I don't have some hidden motive here. And I would just say, whoever you're listening to and whoever's discussing these things, what are your motives? I want hunting to be better. I want the kids to have opportunities like I do. I'd love to see the people in Ohio that are great people, that are struggling to have a better situation. I'd like to see the future be better for hunters. There's my bias. Whoa.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I know from my perspective, I'm older than these two, but
Yeah, you are.
are you older than me?
I don't know. I'm 48.
I'm 78.
Yeah, living in Iowa makes you look good.
I'm 40.
Yeah, so we're the same age, and we grew up hunting around the same time, and I look back to what Ohio was with more hunters than there are now, and yet the experience is worse now with less hunters.
Yeah.
So there's that doesn't equate. And like you said, if these people who are making these decisions are not held accountable, which they almost can't be because they're not voted for, they're appointed. And that's a problem.
Yeah, and another big thing is we have to remember, and we talked about this pre-podcast, I've talked about it with you in our text messaging. The way that we like to hunt, normal compound bows, the occasional traveling, don't like corn piles, we're in the minority. So we're here today having this conversation, wanting better for everyone, wanting better for our state, but we are not what the majority of people do and or think.
But we have science on our side.
Correct.
And the statistics
Yes.
on our side and what's best for the resource on our side. So that should
a
hold a lot of weight.
A lot of the leaders don't even get this right. A lot of the leaders get steamrolled by like Farm Bureau, which is our big insurance company in the state of Iowa. They get steamrolled over these things. Wildlife is not ever meant to be managed by majority rules. I think this would be cool. I think it'd be fun to hunt them year round. I think it'd be fun to have a July velvet season for whitetail bucks. The majorities can do insanely bad things for wildlife, and they do. And that's why wildlife has never meant to be managed based on what the majority do. It's meant to be the decisions that are meant to be based on science, biology, ecology, and the analysis of the facts, okay, over popular opinion in some cases. So, and a lot of times where this has taken place, when the adults in the room say, no, we can't do this. We can't have, a year-round hunting season. You can't sell deer parts, market hunting, go kill buffalo and sell them. You can't do that anymore. It pissed a lot of people off when Teddy Roosevelt, right around that time, got rid of like market hunting. It pissed a group of people off. But later on, the resource was better for it. And that's how you sustain hunting. That's how hunting goes into the future. And if you do make decisions based on majority rules, and this would be cool. It'd be fun to do this with a drone. It'd be fun to use thermals to hunt deer. It'd be fun to use traps to get them. If you go on that, the future of hunting is done. It is. We will ruin it. So how these decisions are made and who makes them is absolutely critical, and it cannot be made just from public sentiment, which does not have the education and the information to make the best decisions for the future of management. And having a sustainable, managed, healthy, diverse, balanced herd, or sustainable numbers of this small game and all these things that intertwine are what every governmental agency is tasked with. And I would say Ohio in the last 20 years has gone the wrong direction, and it's provable. So it needs to change
absolutely.
course.
Yep. And one of the things that Jeremy on the podcast said that I thought was really well said was, in essence, we're making decisions based on today. We need to make decisions based on the future.
Well, I think there's politicians that are starting to sweat.
that is the whole thing in the fire service. We're all firemen. Like, we need to stop being reactive and start being proactive.
Right.
Or we're done.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that are in power right now that are not. They know there was no way to stop it, but they're not happy. Maybe they know that the fact that all of a sudden someone like Hunter and these Facebook posts and these things are happening where people are questioning, wait a minute, you're just an appointed, and this is not directed towards Mike or the Special Wildlife Council, but look at it vaguely from a whole. Wait, you're just appointed and you get to decide what we do? Like, you get to decide what we do. It's not someone that's elected. It's not a biologist. The biologist, he clearly stated, I can only make a recommendation and do nothing else.
Well, not only
I
that,
can only slide it across the table.
He even said it's not the idea; it's who has the idea.
Right, and
That-
that-
I talked to biologists, DNR
crazy.
officials, and even non-hunting legislators across this country fairly often, and the frustration, if they're of the topics that are of frustration, there's positive things too. I'll hear this all the time. Listen, we need to make these changes. The data supports making these changes, and they'll say, "Here's the problem." And some I had a few of them even scold me as they were non-hunters and they were trying to fix a lot of these issues. They're like, "I don't hunt. This is my job, though. I understand biology. I understand how all this stuff works." And I said, "Explain this to me." And they're like, "Can I give you some flack at your group?" I said, "Please go." I got thick skin. They're like, "You hunters are so entitled. You won't give up anything." It was an out western state. They were trying to fix some stuff with mule deer and with elk because some of the populations were going down. The axis was having issues. They're like, "You guys can't give up anything. If it gets legalized once, and you keep adding to it, and you just 20 new things got added to kill these things, and you wanted to take one of them away. You guys are the most entitled, whiny little bitches." And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of valid.
Yeah, but also, we've all seen the slippery slope.
That's,
Yes.
Yeah.
So and that's the point of view we come from. We have seen the slippery slope of, well, okay, we'll do shotguns, and then okay, straight walled cartridges, okay, center fires next, okay, like we see the slippery slope, and there's a history of it, state after state after state.
It's a conservative mindset where if you give an inch, all of a sudden
take a mile.
it opens a door and you end up giving up a mile.
Yeah. So and I look at this one politically like you have the libertarian views. Well, what I do on my land, I can do whatever I want. Yeah, you can.
We deal
You
with
can.
that here.
But when it comes to the public resource, no, you can't. And again, do whatever you want. Seasons all year long. I'm not buying a hunting license. I'm going to shoot them out my back door. I'm going to shoot them at night. I can kill them any way I want. That's libertarian. Do whatever I want. That ruins the resource every time, like we've said several times here. The conservative mindset, conservation, is for regulations. It's not for like regulating everything to the max and being in everybody's business. And I don't care what somebody does in their own land. I could care less. Go dress like a woman and wear your dress around your yard. I don't care. But when it comes to the public resource, you can't do whatever you want. It's a state-owned resource. So
you don't own the deer that comes through the property.
So if you call yourself a conservative, which a lot of hunters do, you should be for conservation. You should be for common sense regulations. You should study Teddy Roosevelt and what he did on hunting regulations, where hunting regulations weren't here before, and how things changed, and look at the history of how we've the pendulum on how it swung and how we manage things. And then you go to the liberal mindset, which is just entitled. Let me do, I'm entitled to this. I'm entitled to that. I got to have the equal results as the guy that has 10 times as much land as me. And I get it. They're smaller guys, but sorry, you're not going to have the same results if you have 5 acres as the guy that has 500. You just aren't. And the liberal would say, yes, I have to have the same outcome. And I know people will get upset about that, but that's the liberal way to look at it, is just entitled. I deserve more seasons. I deserve more ways to kill, more liberal regulations. And I want the same result as everybody else. And, it never works. I mean, it's almost like socialism for deer hunting, and it's never worked, ever.
What's kind of funny is a lot of the guys that I know, because we have a large swath of friends and family and acquaintances in the hunting world and social media and our jobs and everything that has introduced us to other hunters. It's funny how a lot of the staunch conservative type people that are flying a Trump flag on the back of their truck, they are for I need to be able to do whatever I want. So I want to use my drone. I want to use my corn piles. I want to use my crossbow. You can't tell me what to do, which is funny because it's actually a liberal mindset. But they are all about the conservative viewpoint. Donald Trump. I can say and do what I want. and they don't even understand at a base
yeah,
level that it's actually not like that.
It's the same people, and I won't take a position on this. You probably know where I'd fit.
I already figured it out.
So, but it'd be the same people who are like, hey, I listened to that woman group saying, my body, my choice, and my position is, hey, you can do what you want with your body, ma'am, but the baby, that's not yours, right? And they make that argument, right? Which I would agree with. I just would. You do whatever you want with your body, but that baby's a different body. It's a different person. You have to protect that. It's very much the same with hunting. Like, go ahead, dude. Do whatever you want on your land. Be free. Go shoot your guns. Go all this stuff. But when it comes to the publicly owned resource, which is very limited, which is scarce, which can be destroyed,
Right.
you can't do whatever you want, dude. And if everybody has that mindset, the resource will be eliminated with enough time.
I think simply put, what you're doing to the resource affects more than just you.
Absolutely, exactly.
And that's the mindset you have to have.
Yep.
The resource is everybody who participates in this wonderful thing that we have. It's not just you. Hopefully this dialogue and the noise that's being made right now, especially in Ohio, between Facebook and Hunter podcast, which agree or disagree with some of their things, they're bringing attention to some important.
And they have such a huge
and
reach.
they have a huge reach. We'll have tens of people listen to this.
We might hit 1,000. We will hit 1,000. All right,
It'll be on YouTube, right?
Not 100,000.
Yeah, we'll be on YouTube.
Okay, we'll be in the thousands. I guarantee you, we'll be in the thousands.
I guarantee you that. But we're not going to reach
Not that I
100
care.
levels,
It's just I care. I care in that. I hope, discussions like this, logic, the people who care, the people that have the right motives, I hope that information gets out. That's why I would want there to be more views.
Yeah,
as
for
far
sure.
as like my own ego or like advancing I care less about that part.
Well,
But yeah.
I told these guys, I'm the guy that quit hunting Ohio, and because of my experiences, just became worse and worse and worse. And then I picked up the Western thing, and I just enjoy the travel hunting and all that. Well, I got reacquainted with Ohio hunting this year. I really enjoyed it, and I want to be the person who doesn't just bitch about the situation, but tries to bring light to it and make some attempt at change.
Guys, it's not all negative. Let me reinforce this. I will call a spade a spade. Your $1 stance in your late gun season are brilliant. Whoever got that done, I applaud them. It is genius. It's what so many other states should do. You're so much better run than Michigan and so many states that surround you. It's not even close. So it's not all negative. You guys have
no, it's not. But I don't want to rest on our laurels. I don't want to take the worst case scenario and go, hey, at least we're not that. What one of my favorite quotes is, show me a thoroughly satisfied man, I'll show you a failure. Let's keep trying to make this thing better.
Yeah,
let's keep trying.
That was the basic principle of this podcast, was going to be how Ohio can be more like Iowa. And you've told us a bunch of things that can help towards that.
Dude, this is easy. This isn't like, hey, man.
Yeah, 4 things.
But it's not like, hey, man, we got the Manhattan Project. We need to figure out, bring all these scientists to New Mexico and figure out how to make the nuclear bomb. This is not that complex. This is like, don't have bait anymore. That's it. And put a non-resident quota in place. That's it. That fixes your state. It stops all this trajectory going in the wrong direction. It reverses it. It slows it down. It fixes so many issues. That's it. 2 things, really. 2.
Yep.
Don't worry about the crossbows.
Agree.
Don't even worry about the crossbows. The bait, the corn piles, and the non-resident quota. That's it. Not complex.
Do you think Iowa or Ohio has better genetic and trophy potential if everything was equal across the board?
Probably Ohio.
There's some people that argue with me about that because I agree with you.
But
Iowa has all the bucks in the media, but we have these deer in Ohio for whatever reason. We have these wild deer that show up. Yeah, and you're not wrong on some of those, but there are deer that show up in Ohio. We're killing. Back in the 1950s, before high fences existed, we had 330, 340 inch bucks running around naturally. there are a lot of high fence escape deer, but
Okay.
I do
No,
believe
wait,
Ohio.
I'm laughing about that. But put this in practical terms. If you guys fixed those two things, okay, you guys would trounce Iowa, destroy us. So yes, you have more deer, you have more habitat. You know, if everything was exactly equal, just genetics and the absolute top end potential, you guys have probably better genetics and probably a better top end potential, by maybe a slight edge. Illinois is tremendous too. Indiana's got pockets that
Yeah.
are tremendous
Yeah.
too. But the fundamental, just practical side of this is if you fix those two issues, you guys would blow Iowa out of the water.
And that's kind of the point, I think. I have it written down. I haven't got to say it yet, and it was on my list of hot topics that we're not going to get to. But I have it written down. We know Ohio's not bad. But we know that greatness is within our grasp. We are right.
Yeah.
We're right there to be possibly the best state for hunting whitetails
Two changes
in the
away.
United States.
Two changes.
Yeah. 2 changes away. I would agree 100% on that.
Yeah.
You know,
You guys will have at least $100 if you do this that are just like the Ron Paula buck.
That's the last thing I was going to ask you about.
yeah.
That's before we close and before we leave, I want to ask you, what do you know and or think, or your own personal information? Because everyone I know from Traverse City, I have a good buddy who lives
I lived
5 minutes
in
down
Traverse
the road.
City.
So I have a buddy 5 minutes down the road that also lived outside of Traverse City, and he like doesn't talk about the Impala buck. He's like, well, I got my thoughts, and you know, my dad saw it. My dad says it's real, but like, I also have never seen a deer over 110 inches there, and he shot. You know, so what's your take?
Okay, it's kind of like the Kennedy assassination. I guess maybe we'll never get the absolute truth, and nobody will believe the absolute truth on a lot of these issues. That's one of them too. So it's not like I can prove it, right? But I lived in Traverse City. I know what Traverse City deer look like. I was the obsessed data person. I know data like crazy, and my brain just works a certain way with like analytics and data and just information. It's one thing I'm good at, and there's a whole lot of things I'm not. But I remember going into like the archery shop and looking at like 30 years of deer photos. And, you know, for thousands of people, there's mature bucks that got shot. Not a lot, but over 30 years, you could look at like 400 mature bucks in this book. And you go through and you're like, hey, there's 300 or 400 that got fully mature. Okay, they're about 110 to 140.
Yeah,
Maybe there's a 155 in there. And then somehow this guy shoots a 190s, a 200s. He was after another one that was into the 200s. There's not a part of that area landscape that doesn't get hunted. There's not, you know, and listen, it's kind of like saying, hey, dude, I saw a Bigfoot. Really?
I knew you were going to say that. I knew that is exactly
Yes,
what you were going to say.
Here's what I say to the Bigfoot people. I'm like, dude, you're out looking for Bigfoot. Do you realize that everybody now runs trail cameras?
No,
There's
you
trail
don't.
cameras all over now. When we
Bigfoot
get
people
old,
have no idea.
Bigfoot can spot them though. Okay,
Yeah,
those
he
giant
can
deer,
see that camera.
those giant deer that he can find because he gets into the swamps further.
He
than
knows what a
swamps.
camera
It's
is.
the swamps.
That deer knows
mean-
what a camera is. You know.
Okay, they do not grow deer like that. No deer looks like that. No deer grows past about like a giant's 160 there. Like where you're like, oh my gosh, that mature buck got 160. Most of them are like 130. Okay, it's sandy soil. The nutrition's not there. There's no swamp that somebody can get to that other people overlooked. And then all of a sudden he's got multiples. He's after another one that was bigger. And then since trail cameras have become mainstream, why aren't other people saying, hey, I found one that looks, you know, there was another 220s in the Traverse City swamps. I mean, it's such baloney.
All right, I'm glad.
All right, excellent.
So I heard you say something when I was yapping. I heard you say that high fence escapee. Do you think a lot of those 300 plus bucks in Ohio are a result of something like that?
No, because I think the only time they would be, and this is just speculation, opinion with not much data behind it, just kind of like just an off the cuff opinion. I think the only time it would really make a difference is if that buck like escaped and somebody shot it and they're like, look I shot a 375. But the second you introduce like high fence genetics into an area, I haven't done it. I don't actually know anybody that has, but I do understand how genetics get diluted and how fast genetics get diluted. That even if you said, hey, I'm making this up, but I'm going to have a high fence with whatever, 20, 40, 100 deer. You let them out, it might make little ripples through. Maybe you'd see a few things carry on. Maybe you'd catch on in an area, but I think those genetics would get diluted out so quickly that it really wouldn't make that big of a difference. The only time I think the high fence stuff would make a difference, and this would make a difference, is like Iowa. They got repopulated from a high fence, from escaped deer.
Most of
And
Ohio's that way too.
yeah,
Repopulated in the 70s and
so
80s.
if you wiped an area out, like eradicated all the animals, and then brought a high fence there, then let them out, yeah, I think it would make a good a significant difference. Now, it's not like you're going to be like, hey, dude, that deer in the fence grew 375, so wild deer are going to grow 375. They're not, because all of a sudden their diet's going to change. They're going to get infested with ticks. They're not going to be able to be like vaccinated, looked over, and darted, and being fed this premium stuff in this low stress environment. So
Well,
even
that
if
was
you
the
said,
Atlanta suburb deer.
Yeah,
even
that's
if,
the whole Seek One thing, Atlanta suburb. That those deer were reintroduced, not the helicoptering in 200s joke thing, but
Okay.
like the deer
I don't
around
know any
there.
of this.
Well, the deer around there were brought in from maybe Canada or say a northern state, a bigger bodied subspecies, because the
You
southern
guys
deer
would
are
you
smaller.
guys would know more about this stuff than me. For the most part,
Those are all rumors, that kind of thing.
yeah. No, I get it. A lot of those rumors, I don't know. I don't know.
Do you
but,
believe
but
that-
I don't have the answers to them.
Do you believe deer can pass on traits antler wise or no?
For sure.
Because
Okay.
scientists, if you talk to those biologists and some of those
They're wrong.
scientists, they will
They're
tell
wrong.
you that it is impossible.
Okay.
And I don't believe it either. But they'll tell you it's
Here's why they're
impossible.
wrong, though. Here's why they're wrong. They don't have the data and the resources to study huge populations over great deals of time. They can
Right.
do it in little high fence examples, stuff like that. But I'm going to give you an anecdotal one. That deer right there and that deer right there, if you looked up close, you'd go, oh my gosh, their brow tines are almost exactly the same. One's longer than the other and it curves this way. That one's longer than the other and it curves this way. The G2s are the same. They have slight differences, but they almost look like 100% same genetics. Those deer were 12 years apart. And it's the
But
same
same farm?
genetic strain.
Same
And
farm?
then, yeah, same farm. 12
Yeah.
years apart. Same, and you can find genetic strains like these beams, and all of a sudden you'll
Right.
get 5 years later you'll get one that has these beams the exact same way place, and you'll get strains where it's like, hey, this one's got short G2s and these long
Right.
G3s, and they go forward and they're like very unique, and you see that go through. Now,
Right.
I'm not saying like, hey, dude, go out and shoot a few bucks like over here to get coal bucks, let these grow, and you're going to change your genetics. I'm not saying that, but
Right.
can genetics get passed through that you can identify and see later? Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a
Absolutely.
question.
Yeah, so like if you get into a discussion on same deer, it's a topic that I enjoy. I enjoy watching deer grow over years because we have private land here that is ours, and I can watch a buck for 4 or 5 years and hypothesis that it's the same deer through and through and all this stuff. If you get scientifically minded people start commenting on stuff like that on social media or commenting at the podcast, they'll tell you that the deer are all programmed to be 8 points genetically, and you cannot pass on a trait like a drop tine. You cannot pass on split G2s on the left side. It's not possible with the wild population for deer to pass those traits on. It's such a big bowl of
Hunters-
soup that
hunters
that it gets
Do
weeded
not.
out.
Here's my advice for hunters: do not get any of your information from people that comment on social media.
Right,
No doubt.
That's my
because
advice.
we know that there are deer. Like you just said, we've had the same
Here's the
farm
problem.
for 50 years.
Here's the problem with deer hunters. Anybody that's been deer hunting even 2 times, or they have deer in their garden, or they're a farmer that have seen deer around, everybody's a deer expert.
Yeah.
Everybody is an expert in whitetail deer, and it
You know,
drives
another
me
thing-
nuts. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
I think human nature, and even doubling down for deer hunting, you're guilty of it, is confirmation biased. Like they're going to go with the opinion that serves them. Like
We talked about that at the beginning of this podcast. You only know what you know.
right.
You know, I mean, truly. And
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
I am guilty of that. You're correct.
Yeah, hunters
I can-
need to
I
have
can-
definitely be think about things just more critically analyze things, be open-minded. If you're just closed-minded, you know it all. I know it all. You can't do this. You can't do why? Why can't you? Why can't we talk about this stuff? Why do you have to be so sensitive to all these things? Why are you so triggered? Why are you so, you're the, you know, some of these hunters are so sensitive.
We're going to
you
get a
just-
lot of comments about the crossbows on this. So
Can't
that's
wait.
our biggest thing. Since our audience is Ohio and deer camp guys
gosh.
and people like that, we get a lot of hate on our podcast for dogging the crossbows. And it's funny 'cause there's guys on our podcast that use crossbows.
I get
people
it.
get so mad. So
I don't
mad.
blame the people for using them because, you know, the unfortunate part of deer hunting is too many people are like, well, it's a competition. So if it's legal, I got to do it. I got to have the edge up because my neighbor's going to do it. I got to, if I can get a bullet now that if I can use a rifle and I couldn't before, now I can. I don't like it, but I'm going to use it. I don't blame the hunters. I blame the regulations that allowed for it. Now, to some extent, you know, some of the hunters have just become so wussified and sissies now that it's like, you know, 20 years ago, my buddies would be like, dude, I got injured. I might have to use a crossbow this year. And they're freaking embarrassed about it. And they're like, I'm going to do whatever I have to do not to use a crossbow. And like that shame has gone bye-bye.
It's culture.
Like,
Yeah.
we're a bunch of wusses now. We're soft.
Skip, do you have any final thoughts you want to add to that? Well, you can keep your monologue going. You got any final thoughts you want to add to that?
No. I mean, the Ohio thing is so simple. It's so simple. If people just have a little bit of an open mind and a little bit of thought, hey, I'm going to think about the resource before myself for once. Because all I think about is me. Me. What about me? What about me? What about me? I have 4 months to hunt. I want all these weapons. You can't take anything away from me. And I'm saying, think about the resource. Think about the future. Think about the trajectory of what's happened in Ohio and a lot of these other states in the last 20 years. And we can pretty objectively say that a lot of these things are going in the wrong direction. So let's prioritize the resource, which has not been prioritized for the last 20 years. Everybody that wants to exploit it, ruin it, destroy it, kill it, make it easier has won the argument. Fight back. The pendulum needs to swing the other way. What is best for the resource, people? Not what's me. That's it.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. In closing, for me, I want to thank Skip, man. Our interactions have been awesome. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. Thanks to Mike Rex for being accessible and exchanging a day's worth of messages back and forth.
We made this happen fast.
And thanks to Javen Mullet for being accessible as well, and putting in his 2 cents for what his request today was to not make it something that would divide us further. And that's important too. And at the end of the day, we're all on the same team.
Right.
We just, a lot of us just have different playbooks with different ways to win. But we're all on the same team.
A quality managed resource done responsibly will unite hunters. You keep ruining it, and that's what will cause unity to dissolve, and that's what's causing, So if you improve things, that will actually unite people, and to do that, you have to have some healthy debate. And I would just say to every single person listening to this, you guys included, connect with Javen Mullet, Kevin Mullet, Hunters Advocate of Ohio, join up with them, collaborate with them, say, hey, what can I do to help you? Give your input. This isn't like one dude calling all the shots. It's a collective. They need more help. So reach out, join that group. I mean, it's fantastic.
Definitely.
And if everybody here were to do that, you probably could fix a lot of these things in Ohio, or fix the 2 things in Ohio that need fixing.
I think the ripple has started.
I hope so.
I think this whole conversation and this period of time where people like Mike Rex are making their posts and Hunter's talking about it and all the smaller groups like us are talking about it, Nick Miller's talking about it, all these guys are talking about it. I do think it's a ripple that's beginning that hopefully can steer it in the right direction.
At some point, if their constituents are loud enough, they got to listen.
Yeah.
So that's the goal.
Yep.
Skip, thanks a ton, man. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Call to action for the audience. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think about what Skip said. Obviously, a lot of good things were said today. We'll probably break this all down.
Yeah,
on a next
I got
podcast.
notes. I got notes this long.
We got a huge discussion.
It's for a different podcast, and it'll be the next, hopefully the next one, or maybe one of the upcoming ones. So we're not going to break it all down tonight.
Let's hear what the audience thinks. Let's hear what everybody thinks, what we can do to better this. That was the whole point of all of these last couple podcasts.
Yeah.
Skip, Happy New Year, man. Thanks again.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Take care. All right.